And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Thursday morning's OTBAM. Eoin is here as ever, but so is Kenny. Kenny, how are you?
Yeah, all good.
We were trying to put you on the spot yesterday morning, and you were refusing to tell us who you thought was going to win the game until you saw the teams. And I thought that you're just sitting on the fence. But you were right, because Jurgen Klopp made a giant boo-boo and picked the wrong team.
Ooh, you better put more meat in the bone there.
Who should have been the right back?
No, it wouldn't have been the team I would have picked. I would have picked Alexander-Arnold at right back and probably Sid Gomez in at centre half. I don't think that's primarily the reason why the game went as it did.
No, but there's a sign.
It is. Yeah, I was surprised Henderson didn't start for me. Henderson starts probably ahead of Milner in that team that he picked last night, and I was a little bit surprised about Wijnaldum's starting position, playing as an orthodox at number 9. But that said, actually, generally speaking, that Liverpool played very well. Kind of in terms of box to box, in terms of really imposed their personality on the game for long periods. But just in both boxes, made some crucial errors in both boxes, not taking enough of the chances which they created, and really Virgil van Dijk. I've been waxing lyrical about him all season, how good he is, best defender in the world. Key moments last night, just made the wrong decisions.
How many key moments? Somebody was saying it was 3 or 4 key moments that he scored.
Well, the first 2 goals for me, probably down to him. Probably as simple as that. Should have defended both situations better.
Is the second one down to him?
Well, I think it is. I think there's actually 3 components to the second goal that he actually could have done better and stopped the goal. Not following Messi and allowing him to turn, then getting bypassed by the ball in behind, and then standing still as Messi walked past him and tapped the ball into the goal. And that might seem harsh, but that's the facts. That's the reality.
The last part seems particularly harsh. That, I guess you do have to be ready for every single outcome, and the ball ricocheting off the crossbar is one of those potential outcomes for sure. And maybe I'm just looking at it in a very simplistic way, that one of the very many reasons why Lionel Messi is the best player you've ever seen is because he is an unbelievably quick and agile person, and his reaction speeds are quicker than pretty much any other person on the pitch.
It's between the head, it's between the ears in terms of anticipation, but just being bright, being alert, sensing there's an opportunity. Messi wouldn't be the only person who's done that. And there is a natural instinct centre forward, but there are defensively, it's just maybe a little bit of fatigue. It's just sense Van Dijk, even physically, a little bit of fatigue creeping into his game. And like I said, I wouldn't single him out, but they're the facts. It's as simple as that. We've been talking about how good he's been, but
go back to that, because when Messi gets the ball in front of the penalty area, and you're like, oh, this is a little bit unusual. He's got a lot of space here for one of the few times in the match he's been this close to goal and with this much space. Was that on Van Dijk, or was that not on? It's not on, because in the tactics board yesterday, there was like, the midfielders need to be aware when he's dropping.
Of course, Fabinho ideally is the deep-seated midfield player. Always got to be checking his shoulders where it is Messi, but on that occasion he wasn't close enough. Messi was actually in contact with Van Dijk. He drifted off him into that position where he received the ball, and if you see the replays, Van Dijk takes a little step to follow him, then there's a bit of hesitation, and I've been there myself, what do I do? Do I follow him or do I drop? And in those situations when you got nobody attacking the space in behind, because Suarez is 10 yards to his right in contact with Matip, for me, would it be Lionel Messi, go. He's not going to stop him getting the ball. You might just force him to play the ball backwards. So you let him have the ball. Once he turns, you drop off and you kill the space. Don't allow him to play the ball in behind you for a runner. And he did that. Roberto made a diagonal run in behind him. Robertson done great, got across, made a recovering tackle. We know what happened next. Suarez hits the post. Messi's that anticipation, quick mind, on the run, anticipating. Van Dijk's, oh no, have they scored, have they not? Oh, they've hit the crossbar, brilliant. Oh, unlucky. Messi's walked past and put the ball into the goal. So key moments, absolutely key moments. And I have some sympathy for him because I've been there myself. Messi, very clever operator, working in those little pockets, but this is what we spoke about.
The first goal is such a great finish. Do you still blame Van Dijk for it? Because even if he is hanging out of Suarez, it looks like Suarez is still going to have the same finish.
No, because if he makes the early decision to track the run, he's the second centre half. He can see Suarez, Alba, the ball. He can see everything. Matip is blind in that near post position. He's really dependent on information from Van Dijk. Now you could say just give Matip information, but when the ball's delivered that quickly and the run's that short, even then, by the time you give the information, Matip processes, it's probably too late anyway. So for me, take responsibility, track the run. We know how quick. How many times we've seen him track a run, just lean across people, just almost push them out of the way. Time and time again, he's done it. But again, that split second, make the right decision. he stood, he didn't, probably thinking, that's got to be a hell of a ball, that's got to be an unbelievable ball to get around Matip and for him to get a touch on that. But that's what Barcelona can produce.
It mightn't have been an unbelievable ball if Jordan Henderson was tighter on Jordi Alba.
Yeah, no, it's true. Can you get in his face? Yeah, get a block on the cross. But if you're saying from Van Dijk's perspective, you can't start pointing the finger at the people. You got to look at yourself first. Could I have defended that situation better? And I think he could. He was the Liverpool defender in the best position to go and deal with that situation.
I was watching on BT and they were just giving out about Vidal doing nothing, and I was like, oh, he's just picked out a 40-yard pass to Jordi Alba on the left wing and found him in perfect space. It's like, oh, he's been really quiet tonight, Jordi Alba, hasn't he? Ping! Oh, it's 1-0.
Yeah, and untypical like Barcelona goal, like you said, the big diagonal back to the full back, one touch, instantaneous cross into the box, not being overly, generally coming on the inside, playing little combination play. We're so used to seeing Barcelona. Just goes to see, direct football, boom, can be productive as well.
Yeah, no, especially when you've got players like Coutinho, Jordi Alba and Luis Suarez involved. It's beautiful.
But it's an indication, Joe, how Barcelona were really on the rack second half. Like, I've very rarely seen it before. Barcelona team second half, Valverde whipped off Coutinho and basically brought on a right back. He was playing two right backs down the right side of the Barcelona team second half, Semedo and Roberto. Such was the joy Mane and Robertson were having, like raiding down that side of the pitch. They were really on the rack at 1-0 second half. Liverpool were really pressing, sustained pressure. I wouldn't say they were raggedy Barcelona, but they went far off. They were kind of hanging.
It should have been 3-2. That would have been 4-2. Would have been a very accurate.
They had three great chances with Liverpool. The Mane chance first half, that brilliant pass from Henderson, probably the best pass of the whole game onto his left foot. He's got to score there. It's just a great run driving in behind. Just got to soar his feet out, make a better contact. Should score. Milner. Second half, the little step over from Ronaldo, he comes onto the ball. It was like a penalty kick and running up to take one of them penalty kicks, which he had that much time on it. I think anything back across the other side of the goal where the keeper's coming from, you don't even have to be that precise. He scores. Then, of course, the Salah chance at the end. Three clear. You got to take two of them.
Yeah.
You take two of them. Yeah. The ties in the balance.
Champions League
you might still lose the game 3-2, but you're going into the game at Anfield, dangling 1 foot almost in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
I thought Salah was unbelievable last night. I thought he was really, really good. Of course, it's a strange thing to say about somebody who really should be putting that into the back of the net. What was your view on the Longley battle with him in terms of kind of following him out wide? Have we seen sort of a situation where Salah is almost playing at a level where he is to a certain extent unmarkable, even though I thought they did an all right job in terms of what they could possibly do to control him?
I thought it was him, and I'd have to put Mane in that category as well. I actually thought Mane carried the biggest threat, and I thought PK was the one who was really struggling against Mane in that first half. You could sense getting a little bit panicked, just the pace, athleticism of Mane was really causing him problems. We knew Barcelona were going to send the full-backs high up the pitch, so those opportunities presented itself for Salah and Mane, dragging those centre-halves into those wide areas, almost full-back positions, almost kind of 1v1 situations, and you could sense there was going to be real opportunities there for Liverpool. Longley got the yellow card, didn't he, early in the first half. So that was a kind of feature of the game, and that's why you looked at the game and thought, this is Liverpool are in this game. I mean, they're going to get opportunities, they're going to create opportunities. Don't panic, keep calm, keep playing your football. And I was a little bit disappointed just in terms of their quality in the final third. They got so much ball around the Barcelona penalty box, 30 yards from goal during the course of that game. But just talk about clinical finishing, but clinical in terms of your decision making, quality, your final pass in around that penalty box, probably just let them down as well, a little bit rushed at times.
This Barcelona team, this Barcelona team have it in their collective memory to lose a game 3-0 at the quarter-final stage of the Champions League. It was just last year.
Yeah.
And it was remarkable because that Roma team were no good, really. Like they were grand, but they weren't at Liverpool's level.
No, absolutely.
It's not like it's over. Everybody's saying
it's over, but that's what I'd say. Yeah, it is definitely, without a doubt, because when you start to you have to look at the game, how the game panned out. For the reasons that we're saying, that could easily have been a 2-3. Liverpool could easily won that game. Van Dijk's really on his game last night. They conceded 3 goals and they could easily have scored 2 or 3. So you think that Anfield game, atmosphere, European night, can Liverpool score the first goal there? Yeah, absolutely. Could they haven't scored the first goal? The place is up at some point in the game. I'm not talking for 10 minutes. Could they get a second goal? Well, yeah, of course they can get a second. They're capable. And then you start, hello, second goal. You start getting a little bit excited. Can they keep Barcelona scoreless, Messi? But like you say, Roma did. It is possible, like, you know what I mean, to negate his influence in the game. Not easy, I take that point, but it is possible. Highly unlikely, absolutely highly unlikely, don't get me wrong. But I even saw enough in that Liverpool performance last night. Firmino, just a little tinkering with the personnel again for that return leg. But it's still possible, highly unlikely. But you couldn't draw a line under it and say the tie's over.
Two big things. If Firmino's fit for 10 minutes, is he like?
Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't believe Ronaldo.
First 10.
Yeah, even Origi for me, devastating. Natural centre forward. Firmino out. Hasn't got another natural forward apart from yourself. You're thinking, I've got to play here. He plays a central midfielder at number 9. Now, I think why he played him was he puts a lot of stock.
We'll come back to the...
Yeah, no problem.
In some more detail. And then the other thing was, did the Messi free kick touch Joe Gomez on the wall? Should Joe Gomez have put his head to it instead of trying to put his shoulder to it? So this is the ball in the back of the net, obviously just outside of Alisson's reach. And there's Messi in the foreground. But you can see on the left side of the wall, looking sheepishly behind him, is Joe Gomez, who has kind of got his head in the way of the ball and then decided, no, I'm going to try and get my shoulder to it. I don't think he gets his shoulder to it.
Yeah, it was a great spot from Tommy because I saw a couple of replays last night, and on one of them I had a look and I thought, I did think, did I come off Gomez? There was a bit of, I was starting to Joe, so I got distracted. But at the time I did feel as if there was a slight deviation off. It's not much, just a slight touch, which would have changed the deviation of the ball. I mean, still wonderful technique. Whether it would have gone in, we don't know. I don't think Gomez did an awful lot. If you see him, he didn't turn sideways. If you actually look at the front on, he kept himself nice and big. It was kind of a natural position. He jumped in the air, which, look at him there. How many times do you actually see defenders turn sideways there and make themselves smaller?
And he brings his head back towards the ball after the ball's gone flying past him. So I think it's kind of a natural reaction. But if he had that moment back, he would definitely just follow through with the head.
No, I don't think he can do it ahead. That ball's travelling far too quick. Still easy to look at that and think, he's just got to head that ball. He can't. The ball's travelling too fast. All you can do is keep your body as big as possible. A lot of walls actually jump now. I'm not a big fan of the wall actually jumping because I think the wall can actually fracture, and obviously you leave yourself open for that one underneath as well. I mean, it didn't stop the ball, but I don't think he could have done anything more. Made himself as big as possible. Just unlucky, just came off his shoulder.
I think he ducked a bit.
It ducked. You've just shown the still.
Yeah,
where is he ducking?
He's got his head out, and then it's like, I'm definitely.
I couldn't blame it all there. Actually, the walls remained reasonably intact. It's still brilliant technique.
Yeah, it's like.
But to be fair, Stephen McManaman was had a real go at
Becker.
Yeah, Becker, in terms of you can't get beat from that. You can't get beat from that distance. But
no, it's like.
But the thing is, it's over the wall. It's not the goalkeeper. How often do we hear goalkeeper? It's not the goalkeeper's side. You know, Wall's covering that side of the wall. You've got to cover your side. But even actually, I thought he'd done reasonably well to get over into that position. But that's got to be so precise. Look where he is, the keeper now. He's moved his feet quickly, propelled himself to that position. Look at the small bit of area that Messi's got to find to actually get the ball past him. It's brilliant.
Absolutely amazing. So we have some cricket on the show for you this morning. Wasim Akram, the legendary Pakistani cricketer, has been in Dublin launching the new Euro T20 League. You've been talking to him.
I have.
He has a special relationship with Ireland.
Does have a very special relationship with Ireland. You know, the small talk you make with a guest before you click record. It's like, also, first time in Ireland. It's like, have you gone for a pint? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, my son was born in Sligo. It's... What?
We've got a video where he reveals
I just get stopped in the middle, like... I just get stopped in the middle of...
You weren't recording your small talk. I thought you were going to play your small talk there for a minute.
No, that's not how the small talk went. I was being facetious. Turns out he does have a special relationship with Ireland. Shall we play the clip?
Let's do it.
We were just talking off air about your relationship with Ireland. There's two very good stories here. Wasim, we'll start with you. Yeah. You've got a very personal connection to Ireland.
I do, actually. My youngest son, Akbar, who just turned 18 on 28th of January, he's an Irish national and he was born in Sligo. That's unbelievable. It was 2001 and it was December, I think. He was born in Jan. So I was here for a couple of weeks with the wife, and then my in-laws came. So then I left and went to South Africa, tour with Pakistan. But beautiful, Sligo was beautiful, but it was freezing.
I dare say you're the only cricket legend who's had their child born in Sligo, of all places.
My friend of mine was there. So we just went there and stayed with him for a couple of weeks, and suddenly this happened.
Good stuff. I'll pass on our belated happy birthday.
I will.
It was a surprise.
His wife got pregnant and gave birth in the space of 3 weeks. Great story, though.
Yeah, I mean, is the kid any good at cricket? Can we get him signed up for our team?
Well, it's a good shout, actually. He's
playing at the Connacht League at the moment, or?
My head wasn't in the game. I wasn't actually in full recruitment.
How was he closing that one?
I wasn't in full recruitment mode.
Poor Eoin, it's actually, so what is it, 8 o'clock in the morning, but Eoin is still on Tennessee time. He left an important part of his soul somewhere in a street in Tennessee. Isn't that what happened? Because you missed the game last night.
Yeah, I did. I went for a nap yesterday afternoon and I woke up and it was 2 a.m. Couldn't get back to sleep, so I just watched the game this morning.
Put your cowboy hat on. You've been wearing around the office all morning. Come on. What do you take off when you go in air?
Here's what's coming up. We're going to bring you through the sports pages at 5 minutes ago. We're going to talk Ruby Walsh in about 5 minutes' time. Champions League, more parsing through the details of exactly what happened with the Barcelona-Liverpool game with Kenny around about 8:15. Paul Flynn is going to join us around about 8:30 this morning. A bunch of retirements in Irish sports yesterday. The biggest day of retirements in Irish sports history, perhaps. Wasim Akram going to talk to us about that new T20 league, and we'll bring you the sports news after 9. And our first GAA power rankings of the season. Eoin has been stewing all morning, literally, over who should finish where in the bottom feeders is what he's referring to them, the weaker counties, the stuff that Kerry people kick off their boots in summertime.
Just to reiterate, you just invented all those terms right there. Like, I'm not going to disrespect the people at the bottom of the power rankings, because the power rankings...
Not on air, but you do off air quite a bit.
Once you're in the power rankings, you're a good team. But, you know, I'm a different character off here.
Especially in Tennessee.
Time for the papers. So we're going to start with the Herald this morning, and it's all Leo Messi and Ruby Walsh. Ruby, I'm done. Legend Walsh steps down from saddle, and they've got a 12-page pull-out, and that's the picture of the family after that. And then Messi Magic sinks pool. Reds rue host of missed chances as Barca all but kill off semi-tie. And then creaking body key to Flynn's Dubs exit. Frank Roach has a story with Paul Flynn where time waits for no man. Flynn told the Herald, I'm going to be 33 this year, and I did always say I'd go as hard as I could for as long as I could, and I just felt that I couldn't push the body any harder. We'll talk to him at around about 8:30 this morning.
The front page of the Irish Examiner sports section is Daddy's done. Racing legend Ruby drops retirement bombshell after Gold Cup success. Got a few pages on John Caulfield's departure as Cork City boss as well, with Liam Mackey saying the prevailing mood is sadness mixed with a sense of inevitability. New order, Messi and Suarez brilliance leaves Liverpool's Champions League hopes hanging by a thread. And on the back of the sports section for the Irish Examiner this morning, you've got Ruby Walsh's column, which is quite timely. Punchestown farewell. Why now is the right time to call it a day. It's an excellent column and worth checking out if you've got a copy of the Examiner this morning.
Marvellous. Messi strikes again as Barca sink Liverpool is the headline in the Irish Times. Legendary Walsh dismounts for the last time. Ozil expects to still be at Arsenal next year because, well, let's face it, who else is going to pay him all that money that Arsenal are paying him? And that's fairly simple for him. Wee man kicks pool when they're just a goal down, says Mary Hannigan. Suarez, sorry, but no doubt about celebration. Yeah, he was absolutely celebrating that, and fair play. And then this is an interesting story from Australia. Rugby Australia facing player mutiny over Falau, so we'll see how that one pans out, because some of the islanders apparently feel like he's been singled out for his religion as opposed to for his disgusting homophobia. So we'll see what happens.
The Irish Daily Star leads with water away to go. That's Walsh being soaked by his fellow jockeys after winning at Punchestown yesterday. Different class is their headline on the Champions League. Magic Messi mauls Klopp, and Dubs Flynn walks away, says Carlo Kane.
The Racing Post, Ruby retires is the headline there. Titan of the saddle stuns the sport after Punchestown Gold Cup triumph on Kenboy. Get into that in a couple of minutes' time. And Eurovision, Emery's focus on Europa success should guide Gunners to vital victory. So it's Arsenal against Valencia. I don't know if I would just be blah-blah-blahing away a victory for Arsenal against Valencia, right? This Arsenal team on the back of this run of form at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very competent side. Valencia, good footballing team. So, yeah, they'll need to play better, produce a better level of performance. You're right, Jordan. They have recently.
The back page of the Mirror goes with the genius of Messi. For an hour, Klopp's men looked so dangerous and Barca looked so rattled. Then we saw goals 599 and goal number 600. Also, here's an exclusive by John Cross saying players' lives are being put at risk. Football authorities have been warned lives are at risk over their failure to deal with concussion. The players' union official, Mads Oland, fears several already struggle with long-term health problems and that deaths are a possibility because the issue is not taken seriously enough.
Walsh quits after Gold Cup win is the headline on the sidebar of the back page of the Times Ireland edition. O'Shea's golden career, Ireland defender retires after 20 years in the game. And then it's Magic Messi. Stunning free kick puts the skids under Liverpool's brave Nou Camp challenge.
The Greatest reads the headline on Philip Quinn's piece at the back of the Irish Daily Mail. Messi of racing bows out at the top while pool sunk by Lionel Flair.
Walsh Hill, the greatest. Back page of the Irish Independent this morning. Legend McCoy lauds retiring jockey as best I've ever seen, which is high praise from Tony McCoy. Kerry suffered Crowley injury blow as Flynn bids farewell to the Blues. So that is a big loss for Kerry yesterday. Peter Crowley, missing the rest of the season, having had a cruciate tear.
Massive. That's a huge blow for Kerry, given the lack of David Moran at the moment as well. I'm not sure will he be ready for the first game of the championship. It's just chipping away at that experience, which was already chipped away at with a few retirements last year, and he, just a pair of his quality is going to be sorely lost by any team, particularly in the defence at the moment. The back page of The Guardian is from another planet. Magical Messi's 600th Barcelona goal floors unlucky Liverpool, and a Semenya judgment. There was no way to reconcile it without discriminating against one side or the other. And Walsh goes out in a high. Legendary jockey rides winner and retires on the spot.
Did we go on? Yes, I got one as well, yeah.
Finally, the Daily Telegraph goes with Maestro Messi. Forward stunning 600th goal leaves Klopp's Champions League dream hanging by a thread.
And the Sun, chew no who, because Luis Suarez did a thing, he did that a long time ago. Was it? I can't actually remember. Suarez and Messi tear him to bits.
5 years ago.
And, there's two of them. That's all for Walsh, is the Sun back page. And Jan facing brain tests. They're going to test Jan Vertonghen to see if he still has a brain, is what I've taken from that headline. Two more for you. As in Spain says, Lionel Messi, Papa del Football. We're happy, but it's not over. We're going to vamos a una cancha muy difícil.
Anfield.
Cancha? We're going to Anfield. It's very, very difficult. And there's a thumbs up from Iker Casillas. Casillas, estoy bien. I am well. Except obviously he's in hospital having suffered a heart attack, but so we send him our best. And then the Irish News. BBC strike deal with GAA to show 4 live Ulster Senior Football Championship ties. This is good news because, the Ulster Football Championship, obviously the only one that's meaningful for the first, how long? Month and a half of the season?
Until July.
And they're going to show games on BBC.
It's a good bit of exposure for the sides up there, isn't it?
Yeah, they usually do, but I guess
they haven't in recent years. They haven't been able to. So
because they were always based on the RTE rights, was it?
There was a.
Oh, and then we had the Skybox issue last year as well.
Yeah,
that certain Skyboxes weren't able to actually show.
I have a Skybox issue every week back in the house. I got to be honest with you.
Because you've got an Irish card, is that it?
Oh, the signal's rubbish.
We'll be looking at some of the stories this morning because we may as well talk a bit of Ruby Walsh, and there's some great sports writing about Ruby this morning. But the place we have to start really is Ruby's own column this morning.
He totally revealed exactly what he's going to do.
Exactly, it's such a good insight. It's in the Irish Examiner. Why now is the right time to call it a day. So when he said yesterday that he retired on the spot, he really did retire on the spot. He says that if Rathfinden had won the Grand National, I probably would have retired at Aintree, but he didn't.
He didn't retire on the spot. He knew exactly that he was retiring the next time he won a big race. That was in his head, and he had discussed exactly with his wife what he was going to do.
There is still an element of retiring on the spot. There is still an element of crossing the line as winner. And
so Willie Mullins on Off the Ball last night was saying that he'd seen Ruby before the Grand National bringing his kids out onto the track, and he'd never seen that before, and he thought, I was thinking to myself, something's up here, he's going to retire. And then he didn't win, so he forgot about it and he parked it. And then it was after the Gold Cup that it was another race when he was talking about going up against Tiger Roll in next year's National. It was after the Irish National where he was like, oh yeah, really looking forward to seeing this up against Tiger Roll next year. And I was like, he never really talks about next year's races and about that kind of stuff. It's almost as if he's trying a little bit too hard to throw us off the scent. And then we had the roadshow last week where Ruby was the guest, and just before we got Ruby and Robbie Power up, myself and Johnny Ward were doing the crappy bit at the start, the intro, which you'll see tonight in the roadshow. Kenny, try and avoid being part of the intro if you can. We were talking about last year's Punchestown Festival and how a couple of big names retired immediately afterwards, and Johnny goes, and I'm absolutely certain there's going to be another big name retiring after this year's festival. Sharp intake of breath, a lot of jockeys reaching the end of their careers. Robbie Power's still a young man though, so it definitely won't be him. And the crowd laughs, and then we get Ruby up, and Ruby's pissed off.
Yeah?
Straight off the bat, he's like, well, I asked him a question. He goes, well, why don't you just ask Johnny Ward that? He seems to know more about my career than I do. And it was like, okay, well, that's going to be interesting. And obviously he had it in his head at that stage, and so wanted to kind of keep a lid on it as much as he possibly could.
Clearly, it was, from what you're saying, it was been rattling around his head for a period of time, but just looking for that moment, clearly that win. You know what I mean, where he felt he was comfortable in himself, saying, yeah, I'm comfortable now. Off the back of that, I'm away.
Johnny's sources are clearly better than Willie Mullins' sources.
Well, no, it was just an instinct. It wasn't anything specific.
In terms of what Ruby's going to do next, like that's kind of the question that a lot of people are having. He says in this column that I'd love to be part of Willie Mullins' team if he'll have me.
And really, yeah?
Yeah, like really be
great.
Part of that team is what he would do. Like, I mean, like he talks about the potential of getting into training, but it's not going to happen. Will I train horses? No, not in this environment. How do you compare with Willie, Gordon, Joseph? Imagine starting from scratch and trying to compete with them. I might have been a jump jockey, and jump jockeys are brave, but we are not stupid. It seems that he's going to get into media work. He's going to have to learn a new trade, he says, and start at the bottom. I don't have a degree in journalism, so I'm a long way behind the 8 ball, but I always enjoyed learning. It's a new chapter, a new challenge to look forward to. He says that winning the Aintree Grand National on Papillon for Dad in 2000 was the best moment of his career. And also there's kind of a good bit of perspective. I mean, getting out in one piece has been one of the phrases used about any jockey who retires with their health intact. And he says, so do I feel lucky? Yeah, I feel lucky to walk away in one piece. Am I happy that I won't go to work to get hurt again? That's a relief, though I could probably go skiing and get hurt. And he talks about the bad days, and he says there were just 5 or 6 bad days in my riding career, and they always ended up with us in a graveyard burying somebody. So that kind of puts it all into perspective a small bit.
Yeah, and he lists off the jockeys who died that he would have been a part of the weigh room with, and you're kind of thinking, well, like, again, they always point out that they're the only job where they get followed around doing their job by an ambulance, because that's how dangerous it is.
You don't realise, I mean, I've even grown up, I mean, I haven't followed horse racing greatly grown up, but something I never thought about in terms of risk which the jockeys carry with them every time they get on the back of a horse, and something I never really thought about until I actually got a little bit over it. Now obviously you speak to people and spend a bit more time around people, Johnny, to speak a bit more about the sport and start talking about these things, and you begin to assess and think, yeah, no, that absolutely they're right. I mean, the speeds they go at, I mean, coming off a horse at those kind of speeds and hitting hard ground, and you think it really is, like, you know, in terms the bravery they show every time they get on a horse, and to come back from injury. I always think that's always interests me, to come back from serious injury, the mental, you know, to actually package that away, that bad experience, the broken bones, and put it behind you and go again.
Malky Clark told a story about Ruby falling off and breaking his leg at a race and looking down and going, okay, the pain is about to come, but I need to act quickly, and straightening out his leg while he was still in the immediate adrenaline of straightening out.
The pain hasn't kicked in,
So before, because he knew that it would speed up the recovery. It's like, if I just make this bone be straight now, I'll get back on the horse quicker. And then it was like, that's a bit sore.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's just the pain threshold, like
like he did say, I'm hard a couple of times during the roadshow last week, and I was like, yeah, he probably is hard. When you think about it, he's never been, certainly not this decade, he has not been nominated for the Sports Personality of the Year award in Ireland, which is a bit mad when you think about like the level of success and achievement that he's had. Barry Garrity won it one year when he had 5 winners at Cheltenham and won the Grand National. Ruby had 4 winners in a day at Cheltenham and didn't get nominated for the Sports Person of the Year, because we just kind of came to expect that level of brilliance. It was kind of like, well, you just do that thing that you always do, so what's the big deal? But actually, it's achieving at a rate of excellence that we've never seen before for an individual jockey, and we might never see again.
Yeah, I found it interesting yesterday because last night Joe was talking about all his winners, etc. So many winners, done this, that, and which is pretty phenomenal, very impressive. But I was interested. Well, I understand that maybe sets him apart, but what actually sets him apart in terms of his riding ability, like I said, I wouldn't know a huge amount. So more the technicalities of how he rides, what sets him, why is he better than everybody else as a rider in terms of how he rides the horse. So I got a flavour of that last night. The people have found in, ex-jockey found in.
David Russell.
Yeah, David Russell got a really good description for somebody like uneducated like myself in terms of the qualities that he had, and it was really kind of fascinating listening to him speak. And you got a good understanding of almost the God-given talent that he had in terms of being in sync with the horse, understanding the horse, and just in terms of physically how he rode. I found that interesting. because in that hunch position, I remember in pre-season training a lot of the time we used to go into the gym, or you stand up against the wall and you hunch down, you bend your knees and you have to hold that position.
Squat.
To hold that, yeah, kind of for about 20 seconds, and it's like people are screaming. It's absolutely just can't. Lads are screaming like just can't fall into the ground. Muscles, the whole groins, abductors, the whole shebang. Core stability isn't. So I'm thinking to myself, like jockeys on the horse in that kind of crouched position, everything going through the legs. I would have thought, lower abdominal area. How strong you have to be. Jockeys quite small, diminutive, but obviously they have to be so strong, and particularly in certain that core region of their body's legs and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hugely physically demanding. That's probably an obvious thing to say. People who know racing are probably thinking, yeah, whatever, tell us something we don't know. But from my point of view, listening to people last night, I thought it is. That's amazing, really. And then obviously there's the tactical in terms of the horse, the race tactically, riding the race. I'm very good at that, obviously, as well. But yeah, so that was it. I found that very interesting last night. I understood in terms of what he's won.
There's a case
how good he was, breaking down why was he that good.
You're talking about the greatest sports people ever in Irish history, like where he's in that conversation. It's just that horse racing hasn't quite got the same coverage or level of understanding that football has. So we all understand that, if you talk about our greatest ever footballers, however far back you want to go, if you want to go back as far as Giles or whoever, Jackie Kerry before him, and whoever's on that list for, McGrath or Brady or Roy Keane, or I don't know if anybody else makes that list, like, you're looking at our golfers who win on the world stage, like 3 majors is enough for us to think Padraig Harrington is one of our best ever sports people, and it is. McIlroy, if you consider him one of ours, which I do, then yes, absolutely. But like Ruby Walsh right there.
Yeah, but without question. And like it is...
Nobody talks about that though, really.
No, and as you say, the lack of wins in the sports...
Nominations.
Lack of nominations.
Nominations.
Right, I didn't actually...
Robbie Power was nominated when he won the Grand National.
That's insane.
Since 2010, Robbie Power is the only jockey, I don't know if any of the trainers have. I don't think Willie Mullins has either, which is kind of
a strange one. But like as you say, the kind of making that a normal thing, that excellence, that consistent level of brilliance that we've come to expect from Ruby Walsh is absolutely unbelievable. Also as well, to have this option of retiring at the top. Of course, like he said last year that when he had that fall at Cheltenham, he didn't want to get beaten by injury. He wanted to beat injury at the end of his career. And at the end, to have these suite of amazing horses and as an amazing jockey, to have the confidence to say to yourself, I'm going to ride out as a winner, just shows the confidence that comes from being possibly the best we've ever had as a jockey in Ireland. It's interesting as well when you mentioned the style that was spoken about on the show last night, because like we've always heard Willie Mullins talk about the fact that he's got like a clock in his head, he knows exactly where he is. But also Vincent Hogan, interestingly, in the Irish Independent this morning, kind of talking about Ruby's brilliance, saying that so many jockeys have tried to mimic that style and have failed. And it's something that I wouldn't be able to spot either when I'm watching it. It's like, what is the style of the jockey? It's kind of this thing.
Davy Russell said that, anytime you try to mimic it, you end up on the floor. So, one of a kind, and we want to see his like again, so we should celebrate.
I'm not sure about I'll have to into the middle. I'll have to learn from scratch and build my way up. And I mean, that's the easiest gig in the world. Rolling up for the media gigs, isn't it? Oh, there. I'm proof of that.
All right, that is your papers this morning. All this week we're giving you the chance to win some great prizes for any cyclists out there or anyone who wants to get into cycling as we mark the launch of the new cycling website welovecycling.ie. On OTBAM this morning you can win a Skoda cycling jersey and cycling shorts, a branded hoodie, t-shirt, cap and water bottle. To enter, we want you to send us in your favourite place to cycle in Ireland. We want some photographic evidence as well, so just send us the picture to the hashtag OTBAM.
I've got one for you.
You do, yeah.
Favourite places to cycle. I used to cycle up to the top of Hotel Dare Park to play a pitch and put up there on my bike. Used to come out from Coolock. So to cycle up, once you drove to a Hout village and you came through the gates at Dare Park, that hill up to the hotel, it's an absolute killer. Top gear, head down all the way up. But on the coming back down, once you'd played your game of pitch and putt, strapped your wedge and your putter to the bar in your bike, whoosh down that hill. Out the gates, don't brake, straight onto the Hout Road. You should freewheel all down to the junction, Sutton. Obviously, we took a bit of a risk in terms of traffic.
But
you could never brake. I haven't gone down. You could never. That was the thing. Don't brake. Don't keep it going straight onto the road. That sensation coming down there.
The only
It's up there. It's got to be up there.
The only time I've ever seen your eyes light up that much is when you're talking about breakfast.
I was heading for a breakfast probably at the end of it.
All right, go check out welovecycling.ie. It includes helpful tips for all cyclists, from buying bikes to nutritional advice and information on the best cycle routes in Ireland, including, it turns out, the road down from the Deer Park onto the House Road. All right, it is time to talk about the football last night, and this guy.
Let's have a look at this.
Messi. Oh my goodness.
والنظرات إلى ميسي. الله.
Just when you think he's done everything, he comes up with something even more special.
إنه ميسي.
Steve, if you went to the goal with the ball in your hands and placed it, you wouldn't place it any better than that. Who does this, bro? Who does this, bro? What the fuck, bro?
It really is a bit, makes life slightly difficult, to be honest, but the third goal of Messi, my God.
What the? What the dead? Shit! Messi! Man, God! Who does this, bro? Who does this, bro?
Messi, my God.
Yeah. Somebody else we should enjoy, because he's not
Say,
going to
is God or my God?
My God, my God.
Well, like it's been another good year for the GOAT, hasn't it? Between Tom Brady winning another Super Bowl, Tiger Woods in the Masters, and
Why does he bring it back to America? Always. Any excuse to bring it back to the
Lionel
NFL.
Messi. It's like I'm not any excuse. I'm talking about global superstars. And again, we had this conversation last year where it is no matter what sport you're watching, there are quite a few of them where you're trying to just soak in every moment you possibly can get.
No, it's true. I really enjoyed his performance last night, Messi, because especially in this team now, when he played in that great Barcelona team, kind of the Holy Trinity, Xavi, Iniesta, and obviously him, he was the top of the pyramid. But the level Iniesta and Xavi were at, they could still, he was above him, but he was in focus. They could see him. He was in view. This Barcelona team, forget it. He's above the clouds in terms of who's below him. Suarez isn't playing at the level that he was when he left Liverpool and he arrived at Barcelona. Still effective, but he's crashing his way. But I didn't think he was great last night, but he kind of bulling a China shop. Great goal, but he's bulling a China shop now, upset. I know he always did that, but for me, not playing at the level that he was previously. Rakitic, Busquets, yeah, good players, but nowhere. And he is literally carrying that team on his shoulders now. He really is. And the only reason they're slightly above the others, and that probably have been since the knockout stages began to win this Champions League, it's just him. It's clearly is that his presence. They can't win this Champions League without him. And previous Barcelona teams actually could have. That team I mentioned, Xavi Iniesta, actually could have won that competition without him. This Barcelona team clearly can't. They are so dependent on his influence within the team. It's that obvious, it really is.
Yeah. What could they have done differently from a Liverpool perspective?
Do you know what, Messi, I'm not going to... This might seem an obvious thing to say, right, but I was looking at him again last night, and you look at a game of football and you think, well, how do you stop Messi? We've all heard it, you know what I mean? And generally speaking, you set up your system of play, and you try and be as compact as you can, close the spaces. So it's a collective thing. How do you stop Messi? Traditionally has been, it's a collective, you know what I mean, in terms of wherever he is on the pitch, you commit players to that area of the pitch, 2-3 play, condense the space, try and negate his influences as much as it can, keep the game as compact as possible. Whatever, you've got to make good decisions. Occasionally get yourself in a 1v1 situation, you've got to defend that as best you can. So that's basically how you go about it, trying to affect Messi. But again, I was looking at him last night, particularly the second goal, and he came off Van Dijk, got turned, played a little ball into Roberto, so that was the key component in the actual goal. So I've always looked at him and thought, right, man to man, and now it's an obvious thing, people throw their hands in the air, oh yeah, man to man Messi, but I've never seen it. I still haven't seen, as good as he is, the best player in the world potentially ever been, I've never seen anybody try and man mark him. And there's sound logical reasons to actually do that. So take, for example, the second goal last night. We're talking about, should Van Dijk have stepped in? Well, I can see why he didn't. He was worried about the spacing behind. So if he's been man marked last night, say you committed, looking at Liverpool team, Joe Gomez. Say you played Alexander-Arnold right back last night and said to Joe Gomez, you're marking Messi. So you got your back forward intact and said to Gomez, just follow him. Literally follow him all over the pitch. So Messi drifts into that position last night. Fact is, he doesn't turn on the ball. It's as simple as that, because Gomez is literally there. He's literally stood behind him in that position. So he gets the ball, but he plays it backwards probably sideways. So even something as simple as that, man marking, totally committing yourself to that player for the whole of the game, not actually getting yourself involved in the game, even when your team have possession of the ball, just literally standing close to Messi for the whole of the 90 minutes. Now you need certain attributes to do that. A player like Messi, so dynamic, change of direction, you need to be a good athlete, you need to have them kind of quick feet as well, real kind of defensive mindset, good understanding how you defend in most situations around the pitch. But there are those players around. Kante at Chelsea, probably the best example. I would love to see, before Messi retires, a game between Chelsea and Barcelona, and N'Golo Kante being given the job of man marking Messi for 90 minutes. There's probably nobody in the modern game better equipped to negate Messi's influence on the game.
We got that last season. Was there?
I can't remember a play, and I'm talking man marking. I'm not talking about Andres Herrera when Hazard comes into your area of the pitch, staying with him and generally keeping an eye out. I'm talking about following this player around the pitch for 90 minutes, totally sacrificing yourself, not getting involved when your team get the ball, not making an angle to receive the ball and putting distance between yourself and Messi, so if you lose he gets the ball, literally standing next to him and not participating in the game when your team have the ball. That's easily said, and you have to construct your team around that in terms of the shape of the team can suffer because of that, but it is possible to do that. And for me, it's avoidable. I'm very surprised nobody's actually done it. And it's kind of laughed off a little bit. Oh, the modern game, you can't. I understand you can't go around hacking people. I'm not talking about hacking people. I'm talking about modern day defenders, quick, agile, good decision makers, smart people who can stay with Messi and those little areas, stay on their feet, not necessarily make tackles, but just stop and making those killer passes, making those killer runs, which are deciding games that always have done.
Why does nobody do it though?
I don't know.
Is it because he's so good that you stick you stick somebody on him and he goes, okay, you're going to man mark me, I'm going to get the ball and dribble at you and run at you until you get booked, and then suddenly you're like...
But it's a lot more difficult when the amount of time Messi gets turned, travels 5 yards, gets up ahead of speed and run at people. That's far more difficult to stop than somebody who gets the ball, turns. But as he's turning, you're in a position maybe just to knock him off balance, maybe have a little fish toe poke the ball away. That's a far more difficult position for Messi to operate rather than receiving the ball in 4, 5, 6 yards of space. Those little pockets, which he's very good at drifting into.
Which was goal last night.
And you're not going to mark him out of the game, but you're going to significantly reduce his ability to influence the game, particularly in those key areas of the pitch. You know, you really are thinking about the times of picking up. As soon as he picks the ball, it gets turned and takes 2 or 3 steps unopposed, you're dead. You really are dead. Another one just before the second goal last night, he played in Vidal inside. The same thing, got turned, travelled, drew about 3 Liverpool players to him. Suarez was offside, didn't play the ball, took another, then slid Vidal in. He should have had a touch and scored again. But again, receiving the ball in that kind of kill zone for Messi, 25, 30 yards central, getting turned, you just can't do it. You can't allow him to operate in those areas as he was and as he has been.
What got into Klopp's head that he refused to pick Trent Alexander-Arnold last night? Wouldn't it have been far better to be aggressive and go and pin Jordi Alba back as opposed to go and I'm going to have somebody whose job it is to mark Jordi Alba, which didn't work in the end?
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you because he's been so effective in terms of getting down the flanks, as good as Robinson in terms of assist this season, not just in terms of creating goals, but his ability to take the ball and travel into forward areas with the ball. Now, I would have played Gomez. For me, I love Gomez. For me, Gomez and Van Dijk is the best central defensive partnership in the Premier League. So for me last night, the better option would have been Alexander-Arnold at right back and Gomez in alongside Van Dijk at centre-half. That's a far better part. I know he hasn't played, match fitness is an issue, but he looked all right. So for me, that was the decision last night. And I agree with you, Trent Alexander-Arnold, because you look at Coutinho playing left of the 3, but we know Coutinho's going to play on the inside. So basically, Alexander-Arnold's going to have to deal with Jordi Alba. He's got to be able to deal with that. He's not the greatest defender in the world, Alexander-Arnold, but he's got better and he's getting better. But you're right, the attributes which he has, ability to get on the ball and take Liverpool up the pitch and providing a real attacking threat. Liverpool were stunted down that right-hand side last night. Vertebrae were so used to them penetrating down both sides. I thought Robinson had a great game last night, but they just weren't as productive down the right side for the reasons that you're saying. That invites that little bit more pressure then, because you're not able to sustain attacks. As much possession as they had, they could have had even more opportunities, particularly down that right-hand side.
For the first goal, McGranaman was complaining as well that they were very narrow. I don't know if it was that the case, because we were talking yesterday on the tactics board and you were kind of saying that that's fine the back four should remain narrow, then they don't expect the wingers to come back and be that auxiliary fifth and sixth defenders. And yet, there was the ball pinged over to Coutinho, who was on there, and Alba was behind him, and they were able to have a load of space because whoever's job it was in midfield to come over just didn't come over.
Yeah, there's a lot of different issues. I know what you're talking about. We're talking about continue operating those inside channels, and players do that. Manchester City do it with their two number 8s, De Bruyne and Silva. Like, they come 15, 20 yards in off the line into those pockets, and what they're trying to do is pull the full-backs in tight to the centre halves, really narrow up that defensive line. So that opens up that kind of big diagonal. In Manchester City's case, usually for kind of Sané or Sterling over the other side of the pitch. So there's a reason, not just a case of the Liverpool fullbacks are taking the easy option and want to stay narrow. They're actually getting drawn in there by the likes of Coutinho and Vidal narrowed up on the other side, or whoever it is. They actually drag you into those narrow areas. But it's not the end of the world. They're hitting the big diagonal. But still, you've got time to shift across. You know, Gomez got time to shift across. Yeah. Henderson, as it was in the goal, maybe should be reacting, getting across a little bit quicker when Jordi Alba. I thought Liverpool a little bit too passive in terms of the press. I thought the man in possession, the centre-half Busquets, a little bit too much time. Have a touch, and kept hitting those diagonals. Liverpool had quite a high defensive line. I would like to see a little bit more early pressure, a little bit higher up the pitch. That helps you. That affects the quality of that diagonal ball that you're talking about. So I wouldn't have a huge issue with that. You know, invariably, if you're going to allow them to have the ball, let them have that big diagonal. Always time to shift across and go and deal, which I thought generally they did. Yes, Cunningham got a yard quicker, maybe stop that, but he delivered that ball quick. He took a touch and quickly whipped his foot around that ball. It was a brilliant delivery, it really was. And we spoke about the reasons inside the box why he scored.
In terms of the third quarter of the game, and Liverpool were well on top, is there a template there for taking on Barcelona?
Yeah, well, this Liverpool team, and we saw it last night, I've always felt, and I think back to like a Manchester City performance against Barcelona a couple of years ago back at the Etihad, and I've always felt that a team with kind of high energy, dynamic, very athletic, kind of physically imposing team, obviously got to be able to play to a level as well. That type of thing could still hurt this Barcelona team. Manchester City did it a couple of years ago. And so last night I was looking at that Liverpool team. You're asking what team I would have picked. We spoke about Alexander-Arnold for me, Gomez. Central midfield for me last night would have been Fabinho, Henderson and Keita, for the reason that those three give you that really powerful physical presence, dynamic, box to box, high energy, almost like a train in there, can literally run over you, run past you. And looking at this present Barcelona team, Rakitic in there, very tidy, good footballer, not the most dynamic. Busquets, we know, absolutely one pace. Vidal, little bit bullish, hasn't got those. Coutinho, slight, as good as they are. I just felt there was how this Liverpool team play, rock and roll, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
and I think we saw a bit of that. Like we saw that last night for large parts of the game. High intensity, energy, quick running, you know, getting around the pitch, making tackles, physically imposing themselves and really pushing, almost bullying Barcelona, particularly in that second half, pushing them back like a boxer, punch, getting them on the ropes, pushing them to the edge of the penalty box. And now you're thinking that, you know, the punch is going to floor them. In Liverpool's case, that killer, that final ball, that little bit of combination that was going to open them up wasn't quite there.
Two quick comments on this. All year, says itrepairs.ie agency, good man, getting your plug in there. All year I'm hearing Van der Vaart is hands down better than Hansen was. Virgil van Dijk is better, hands down better than Hansen was. Never saw Hansen asleep, and it fought for 2 goals in the European Cup semi-final. Also, the keeper made sure there was an extra player on the wall for the third goal. So the blaming of Virgil van Dijk, the highs and lows in 1 week.
You got to take it. Yeah, you got to take it. I wouldn't kind of keep on and on, but it's a fact. We've been highlighting all his qualities this season: one-to-one defend, leadership, big switch, comfortable on the ball, presence, the whole thing, and absolutely rightly so. Player of the year for me, my player of the year. But you can't get away from this. And there's always been. I've always looked at Van Dijk, even this season, and there's always been. You're afraid to say it because he's that good. But there's always that little bit of the way he carries himself sometimes, as good as he is, and he knows how good as he is, and we know he's clearly confident, bored and stroke arrogant. People say you need that kind of arrogance, which I understand, but not to the point where that arrogance starts to manifest itself in terms of that, do I really have to track that? I mean, I know how good I am. You know how. That. I think on a subconscious level, there's a little Barcelona. Bit. There might even be a little bit of that with Van Dijk in terms of, do I really have? This is this is beneath me.
Surely not against Lionel Messi.
But it's concentration. It's just the fundamentals of the game. We're talking last night, just tracking a run. Suarez just go and track the runs, see it out. It's a 5-7 yard little sprint. That's all it is. We've seen him at halfway line track people, show him the line, stay in his feet, not commit himself, ease them off the ball. The whole stands up at Anfield.
Yeah.
And right, so brilliant defending.
But he must come on.
But there's a little bit. Occasionally, there's a little bit of that slug, just in terms of concentration mentally, which he's got to.
In the Champions League semi-final first leg at the Nou Camp against Messi.
You can't
Suarez.
you can't switch that on and off. If you see it during certain Premiership games on occasion, you can't just suddenly say, "Well, I'm going to switch that button off because it's a Champions League game."
He's been the rock of the team that got 90 points for the first time.
I'm his biggest fan. I'm his biggest fan as anybody.
Okay,
but I'm just saying, I've got to say it because occasionally you see it.
We're picking nits here. Last one here. Messi's the third highest goal scorer against the Premier League's top 6 since the 2011-2012 season. Third highest goal scorer against Premier League, and considering he barely plays them, that's not bad.
Who's top, Jamie Vardy?
I don't know.
I was thinking.
That's way too far.
The three most, say Leo, is that his name? The three most influential Leos of my lifetime: Messi, Da Vinci, and Leo Burdock. Messi is now in that category. That's how good he is.
I love what you said over your lifetime and included Da Vinci in there.
Well, people have read about his anniversary, his 500th anniversary, is it?
What about Varadkar?
Yeah, Varadkar's just like going, what happened there?
Obviously, the obvious comparison. I wouldn't know. I'd stick with Burdock, obviously, but in terms of an artiste, what he is, that's what he is. That's what Messi is. I mean.
Okay, we'll come back to the top 3 Leos because it's time to get our next guest in. Paul Flynn is outside. We're going to talk to him right after this. Here's a bit of John O'Shea, the other retirement happened yesterday.
Actually, it's obviously it's been sent to me quite a few times over the last 24 hours. It was just that game itself. Look, not that I try at the odd time in training and different things like that, but it was just the way the opportunity presented itself,
Well, he dove in a little bit.
Exactly.
He's asking for basically. He was asking to be humiliated.
It slows him down quite quick.
Yeah. But I'd say you're thinking to yourself, oh no, I've just invited trouble on myself here. He's not going to like that.
Well, thankfully, we did actually. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, we did win that game, or did we? Maybe we didn't, because I was thinking when Ronaldo got clapped off the pitch.
Was that the Ronaldo night? Well, if it's that night, you didn't win that night, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So it was worth a try, as they say, and it came off, thankfully, and we kept possession of the ball, which is also nice, because sometimes you do these things and you lose the ball and it's not very clever.
Yeah, it's weird. It was just this mad moment, young enough in your career, and I think everyone back here was like, what's he done there?
Yeah, more John O'Shea stuff. You can get that goodness on offtheball.com. I'm delighted to say Paul Flynn is here, the former Dublin footballer. How are you? Have you made peace with that?
I have, yeah. Thanks very much. It doesn't sound right just yet, but it will, in time. So
yourself and John O'Shea and Ruby Walsh, quite the day. Did you all coordinate that? Was that like a
we're WhatsApp
right, lads, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So my mum was giving out last night that Ruby was stealing my thunder.
And I saw Alan Brogan on Twitter going, "Don't worry about it. Leo Messi's going to steal everybody's thunder" last night. So, what was the decision? Like, why now? What was the final impetus for you?
It was something that I've been kind of playing around my mind since the end of last season. Actually, before I entered into the championship last year, after getting the back surgery, I was like, right, this is the last phase of my career. I was quite comfortable with that, and then I played well, and that kind of says to you, maybe I can go one more year. And then people were telling me, everybody I was speaking to were saying, but for the year that's in it, you got to go back, and give it one more year, and if you get a good pre-season under your belt and a good league campaign, it'll leave you in good stead for a championship. And yeah, I tried it. I said I'll go hard, and I didn't miss any training sessions through my back, but I just couldn't push myself as hard as I once could, and I couldn't reach the levels that I once could, and I struggled with that.
In terms of sprinting, or in terms of like the load, or the
it's really repeat sprintability, and that's kind of the thing. Like, could I sprint? Yeah, like pace was never my kind of underlying strength, but it was okay. But it was the ability to make 10 or 12 sprints in a row. To get down and to cover the fence, but also get back up and be able to kick a point. And I struggled with that, and that's just there's part of that. It comes with age, but also with 2 surgeries in 3 years, they build.
Was they the same surgery? Was it the same thing?
No, I got groin surgery the year before. So
right. And what was the back injury?
The back injury it's called a lumbar spine discectomy. So it's a literally. I actually was playing the first club game last year in February, and I went to run. I couldn't run. I had no power in my left leg, and I got this thing called, my foot went actually quite palsy. Right, it's called foot drop. Right, whereby there's a nerve that impinges on a nerve canal right at the top of your left leg around the glute area. And the nerve just wasn't working, so the foot then loses its power. So I went in to see a specialist the next day, and he operated me the next day.
Right, okay, so it's as quick as that.
Disc, yeah.
Right.
He said you can't leave that for long because you can do permanent damage to the nerve, and but I got a full recovery from it. Thank God, yeah.
Yeah, so those combined surgeries actually took away one of the key parts of your game, which was that ability it was the motor and the engine and the ability to keep going for the whole game.
Yeah, like there's some guys, like I say this fairly openly, like that their game is built on skill. You know what I mean? My game and the position that I played was attritional, and it was built on the ability to be able to, make those repeated sprints, and that's why, through my probably best years, I had no injuries. I was able to kind of train and push my body to limits and above where it even wanted to go itself, and that allowed me then to put in the performances that I could, and as I say, it was built on conditioning and physicality.
Can we go back then to the bit where you where that penny dropped with you? Like, were you a mainstay of underage Dublin teams, like under 16 minor? Like, you knew at that stage that you were in that conversation anyway?
I was in the conversation. I wasn't the mainstay, like 16s, minors. First year minor, I didn't play with Dublin. I played second year, but I started midfield. First year 21s, I was kind of periphery. Second year, I started midfield. So, but I wasn't the best player on the team. But actually funny, and from our 21s team, not many players did make the transition, bar myself and maybe Michael Savage, Vincent's goalkeeper. I probably came onto the Dublin panel, and again I was very raw. And actually, Kieran Duff, who was a Fingalians man, he actually was a selector at the time, and he called me up for some squad games early doors. And again, like, I made some big plays, like, and not scores. I remember, like, I caught a few lads with some shoulders, right? That was the kind of thing that stood me out from the crowd at that point, that I was physical and aggressive.
What stage of the season is this? Is like this was Brown Cup, or?
This was actually, when I was calling to the Dublin senior team, it was in April of 07. So they were just finishing their league campaign and going into championship, and I didn't play any championship that year. I made the bench once or twice, and that was kind of where I was at. And I was.
Were you delighted with that at that stage?
Delighted with that at that stage,
And where were you making the bench? Is this a midfielder, or like had they?
I actually didn't know. I just ran around for the warm up and ran up and down the sideline, and I was like, chuffed to bits. I got a jersey and I brought it home, and that was elation. Like, that was kind of what you wanted. You're growing up. You're giving so much to the game with the goal of one day, lying out in Croke Park, and we don't get an opportunity to be professionals. We are in an amateur sport, and that's the pinnacle, is to play in Croke Park, with your county jersey, whatever that is.
And at that stage, I think, is that the year the Pacquiao comes in, that summer?
No, he was. So I had 2 years with Pillar, 7 and 8, 2007, 2008. And then
did you play in 08?
I played in 08. Yeah. Played my first championship game was against Westmeath, and I was taken off at half time from the 80. It was when 80,000 people used to go to the first Leinster championship game, and I was taken out. Just the noise, the sun, the heat. It just caught me, and I was chronic, and I just got
playing 10.
Playing 10, yeah. So. And then when Pacquiao came in, I was really worried, because I was like, new manager, don't really know, doesn't know much about me, didn't have a great year in 08, And I'll never forget, he rang me when he was probably announced in around the September or October. He rang me in the November and he was like, you know, I've got a lot of faith in you. I really want to, you know, I want you to be in the team. I want to work with you, you know. And he gave me such an uplift without even seeing me in one training session. And that, I'll never forget it, because from then he stayed true to his words. Did he start me every game? No, but he helped me develop, you know, as, you know, a player and even a person off the pitch as well.
Had you committed at that stage to the conditioning that you ultimately end up doing? Like, did you realise that was going to be something that you needed to do to separate yourself from your rivals to get the jersey in the first place?
Yeah, like I knew we were going through a kind of a phase where the game was changing, and the half forward line was this position that was, not all the forwards worked hard. Like today, if you don't work hard as a forward, you don't play. Yeah. Whereas back then it was like we'll get a 10 and a 12 who'll do the donkey work. Really, that was the role. And you know, Dooher did it for years for Tyrone, and like a great successful team. Galvin did it, and they were the guys you're looking at. Danny Hughes from Down would have done it in 2010, and that's kind of what you were looking at, and you were basing your game off. And but you had to have that. That was you know, if you didn't have the fitness levels to do those runs, you know, you weren't able to play that position, and you just then had to layer on, and that's what I would have concentrated a lot on was the skills.
Yeah, so how did that happen? Because like when you said your game wasn't based on skills, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because certainly fans of every other county realise how brilliant you were kicking points from both sides of the field, from the 40 and beyond. So obviously that was something you got really good at some point. When did that happen?
Well, like if you're playing club football, like you're probably always, I would have seen myself as a good kicker, and then you go into county and you might make, you know, a number of kick passes that go astray, and shots that you're not executing, and you had to work on that. And when I was in DCU, interestingly, I lived with Michael Murphy for 4 years, and I really do feel that it was a kind of a turning point. We learned a lot from one another, I'd say. But you know, we used to go out and you know, take our spare time between lectures and stuff and go kicking. And he was one of the best ball strikers, you know, from the minute he came onto the scene as a 17-year-old for Donegal. Yeah. And we would have spent a lot of time working on it. And also, you know, Bernard Brogan would have been kind of a guy who would have taken me out with Pat Gilroy, actually, out to DCU, just the three of us, you know. And you're in the county football Ireland like that, that was difficult as well, but it was very much appreciated. Where they're actually, like, we're going back to basics here about how to kick your points, and we did it, and we worked on it, you know. And I just put the hours in, and used to, you know, get a bag of balls every day I wasn't training, and go out and just keep working on it. And then I found myself, I just had confidence, you know. And once you have that, then when you actually find you get yourself into more shooting positions when you have the confidence to take the score, you know. So
because you keep running because you know it's going to arrive.
You get there, and then you want to get on the end of scores. Where when you don't have the confidence, you're kind of saying, I'll just pull back here, and I'll, you know, if the ball turns over, I'll make a tackle or whatever. But if you've done the practice, you're like, I'm getting into a scoring position. And you're setting yourself targets of maybe getting 4 scoring opportunities in a game and executing 3 of them, or whatever your KPIs are.
Was there anything in particular that you learned from Murphy or from Brogan, or was it just pure repetition?
Their ball striking was just, you know, even like they didn't measure it on outcome or a score, like they'd like measure it on how they struck the ball, and that was kind of around the process of kicking it. And Bernard was big on that, and we you know, we break it down into kind of 3 stages where you have the ball, you get composure. It was a big thing for me where, you know, I might work at 100 miles an hour to get the ball. And then I wouldn't bring myself back to maybe around 85% to get the good execution. I'd be kicking at 100% and a bit out of control. So that was a big kind of learning curve. And then once you get that, you can consistently get the good strikes. And if you get good strikes, you know, more often than not, the ball will go where you want it to go.
So part of this is all Michael Murphy's fault, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he sent me a lovely text yesterday. That was a lovely part of yesterday, in fairness. The text that you get from people, you know, that had an impact on your career all the way through. And I suppose, you know, you'll know this, Kenny, like when you're in the middle of it, you don't think, you're not looking back. You're not like, oh, that guy helped me. And it's probably like, not that you're not thinking that then when people helped you, you know, you do move on a bit, and but I have a nice day of reflection yesterday, and you do have gratitude for those guys who kind of helped you all along the way.
You kind of need to be selfish and cutthroat to try and make the team, and everybody who's helping you is helping you along the way. But I guess that's the joy of a retirement, is that you can actually think back. And when you were thinking back yesterday, who were the people that you kind of thought, yeah, those were stages along the way that were really important?
Yeah, Dully, like, you know, it's funny, like, Kieran Duff, like, you know, to bring me on. I remember, like, funnily, like, I was out, like, on a night out until, like, the middle of the morning, and at 8 o'clock the next day, Dully rings me and he says, there's a game on down in Lusk, would you come down and play? And my first Dublin game, like, and I went down and I was, literally it was just home kind of, and I went down and it was at 2 o'clock, a couple hours sleep, and I scored 2 goals, right? And I was absolutely chronic, but I scored 2 goals. They'll ask me how I did, but I didn't get called in that time. So no, it's gone. Will it still work without it?
Yeah, we'll get
so he was obviously, because he was a legend around the club, and then like, you know, people like Pat Gilroy, you know, someone that I like still look to as a guy who's had a big influence on my life. Niall Moyna in DCU helped me as well, and Mick Bohan, who would have been my coach in DCU as well,
who coaches the women's football team at the minute.
Yeah, and you can see that the impact that he's had on that team, whereby their skill level has, you know, increased something fierce, because he does a lot of work. Actually takes some learning from Barcelona, where they do a lot of work with 2 balls.
Yeah.
So
there's some of that stuff on YouTube actually that's worth looking at. You can see the women's team training with the 2 balls, and it's kind of, I'd never seen it before, but Tommy obviously is a bit obsessed about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to bring Meath Hill Senior, you know, and you can see the benefits of it. You can see the slickness of their passing really quickly. So when you were at DCU, that was when 4
years doing 2 balls exercises, and it was like, you know, it gives you such balance and coordination, and you have to keep on working on it. But in particular on my weak side, because you think about your soloing with your left hand. If you have another ball in your hand, you have to drop it with your left hand.
Yeah.
And you have to kick, you have to strike. And a lot of people like drop with their right hand, and it takes your balance. So, and you know, it's just something new. It's kind of building your motor kind of skills in a different way, you know.
Were you obsessive?
Yeah, I was, you know, and probably to its detriment in some regards. Like, you know, I remember having good conversations with players about it, but you have to be, you really do have to be, you know, the athletes, the Olympians will always talk about single-mindedness and, you know, just pure focus on you and your goals. And I would have had a lot of that, you know, and it probably, I won't say it peters out, but you then come to a stage where you can't do it any longer, especially as an amateur, where you have to concentrate on, you know, on your life off the pitch. But like, I was very obsessive about my game, and, you know, I actually, probably looking back even yesterday and hearing some things, you know, I never rated myself as highly as probably other people did, you know, that kind of way. And I was always looking, saying, even my best games, I was probably dissecting it and saying, geez, you know, how did I make that pass? You know, why didn't I, you know, execute that score?
Well, where did the joy come from then? Because there must have been loads along the way, right?
Yeah, the joy comes from the camaraderie with the team, and winning as a team, and winning. You know, I always loved winning real dogfights. You know, that was kind of something for me. Or when you're really faced with adversity. And I think it was 09 or 10. 09 or 10, we played Kildare in a Leinster Championship semi-final. We had a man sent off early doors, and Kildare had us on the ropes, and we just got over the line. And it was one of those monumental games for us, like, you know, and we had a lot of those early doors in Leinster that were just, you know, games that you remember where you're up against it and you deliver. And that's the joy in team sport for me anyway.
Speaking of the single-mindedness and the goals that you'd have in mind, what sort of goals were they?
Yeah, they kind of year on year they'd change. Like if I'm going into 2010 season, I remember I knew I was going to get opportunities to start, and it was all about kind of improving my kicking. Was I thinking about individually winning an All-Star at that point? No, I wasn't, because I was so far, you know, I was just thinking about getting into the starting setup. But I do remember in 2011 I kind of started setting myself, you know, more detailed goals, and, you know, that year it was all about kind of winning an All-Ireland and winning an All-Star. And that was funny, like we used to discuss that, myself and Murph as well, where it wasn't all just about kind of like, you know, skills, but we talk a lot about the game and what we wanted to achieve. And in 10, neither of us had an All-Ireland or an All-Star, let's say, and we'd say, you know, if we got one-on-one, you know, you retire a happier man, you know. But then we did get that in the next 2 years. We both won an All-Ireland and an All-Star, and you know, obviously you get greedy then and you want to keep going, you know. But
I think Aidan Walsh was in that house as well, was he?
He was, yeah.
So that was 10, 11, 12, all in that one house.
Yeah.
Not bad.
And he was a 12. In 12, the three of us were living together, and the three of us won All-Stars, and we were quite friendly, the three of us. So
good night that night, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a good night, yeah.
Good week.
So let's talk about some of the All-Irelands, and we should talk about the Donegal game as well. The first All-Ireland is obviously, in retrospect, the important one, because that starts everything else. You nearly missed that game, the final, is that right?
Yeah, like we played Donegal in the semi-final and I pulled my hamstring the last kick of the game, and I'll never forget it. Like the lads, you know, there was big celebrations that night. There was a 3-week gap between the game and everybody was going out, and there was just such elation to reach a final, which was a milestone for us. Even Pat always spoke about just getting to a final, and that was his thing, you know. And we, you know, there was a sense of we needed to blow off a bit of steam, and I couldn't obviously go out of the state. I iced my leg. That 3 weeks were like, you know, looking back now, if you talk about obsession, it was crazy. Like I wouldn't let anyone around me speak negatively. You know, everything was optimistic. We were talking about positive mindset. I was drinking. You know, what was the stuff we were drinking? Anything I could eat that was there was a line to decreasing inflammation or was going to help speed up recovery. I spent, you know, every day going out to this hydrotherapy bath in the morning, in lunchtime, and in the afternoon. It was just, you know, everything was centered around it, and.
Waking up in the middle of the night to ice it, that kind of stuff?
Waking up in the middle of the night to ice it, that happened. Like for 48 hours I didn't sleep really. I just cycled to get ice to get the inflammation down, and I actually probably did myself no favour, because I got myself back in 2 weeks, and then I was doing a fitness test a week out from the game, and I pushed myself too hard, and I remember feeling something small and saying, you know, I just got giddy, you know, that kind of way. Like I was saying, like, I had a week, you know, but I was just
should have taken it.
And I didn't know anybody see, like, we reckoned it was still okay, but then I didn't do anything for a week, and then I had to do a fitness test the Saturday before the game. I remember I was chasing Declan Lally, and I got this kind of injection in it where it was slightly like an anaesthetic around the area on both sides of the small tear, so that it numbed the whole area. And I got it very, very heavily strapped, and yeah, I was okay that day. But I do remember going home, like, and the pain afterwards was excruciating when the kind of anaesthetic kind of wore off. And I actually rang Pat that night and I said, Pat, I'm out, I can't play, like, you know. And I was crying, like, you know, that's where this is the emotion that game would have brought for us, like, you know. But he said, no, you'll be okay, you'll be grand, right?
That's old school, isn't it?
That's old school. But he wasn't old school, and the funny thing was, but he was still, he had this belief system that I could play, and, like, you know, I remember doing the warm-up and I went to him.
Well, maybe that's what you needed to hear, Paul. I'm saying, obviously, I'm not kind of talking him down there and saying old school. Maybe knew you that well. You're talking about having that positive mindset around you during that period of your rehabilitation. Maybe even that was him in his own head saying, this is what he needs. He needs to hear this. I need to tell him this. You know, I need to convince him. He needs to hear these words from me. So in terms of that type of positive psychology from the manager, even implanting that in your head, now don't worry about it. You're going to be all right. You'll be grand.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like he had a great way of playing my mind. Like, you know, he had a real influence on me. So that kind of, you know, he probably knew what he was at. And I did the warm up. I remember, and I actually went to him at the warm up, and I said to him, Pat, just make sure this guy's warming up on the sideline, because I feel this is going to pop. But I didn't play well in that final, but I got 47 minutes, and the biggest impact I had in that game was coming off and letting Kev McLennan come on. And he came on, and he obviously, you know, did what he did. So.
It's impossible, really. I mean, you would have had, I had a forced hamstring, like little tear, probably grade 1, in my 30s actually, very late on in my career. But it was so debilitating. I mean, you're talking about 3 week rehab. It's really impossible for me. You can't. But that you're talking about that explosion at a pace which you needed over distance and that kind of constant repetition, hamstring related. It's almost impossible. It's that big explosion when you decide, right, I'm going to go. You just haven't got confidence. You almost got to lean into it. You're kind of pretend you got to lean into it. It takes a bit of time to get the speed up. Yeah. Which, like you're saying, is almost impossible. That kind of explosive. Nature of the game, but it's fair play because it's a mental, you know. Sure. You know it's not right, it's not 100%, but it's kind of, you got to play mind games with yourself, you got to convince yourself, almost got to manage yourself a little bit through the game, but it's a horrible feeling with that type of injury.
Yeah. To talk briefly about the Donegal game, because it's also a kind of a seminal sliding doors moment for this Dublin team, and that the style changes afterwards. What a great game. I mean, I don't know if you can appreciate that now, but like that first half that you played was sensational, and the first 25 minutes were sensational. I mean, what do you remember that game?
Like that's 2014, arguably, and I say this a lot, like was my favourite season playing Gaelic football. And I tell you why, because we nearly, I felt, changed the game, right? We were probably in the sense that we were playing full press, right? Like there was no sweepers, there was all out attack. And our motto was just hunt them down, get the ball back and get it over the bar. And we'd hunt them, we'd press up on kickouts, we'd press up everywhere in the pitch. And in fairness to Donegal, they used it to our disadvantage. And in that first 25 minutes, we had them pinned in. Like, you know, our motto was like, if they've two sweepers, just press up on them. And they do no sweepers, and we just go at them and back ourselves man to man. And that's exciting. If you're playing football like that and that's your attitude, like it just kind of seeps into your training and seeps into your mindset. It really was aggressive and, you know, just exciting. I see a lot of it in the Premiership now where teams are pressing up, and like the Premiership has turned into, or any like soccer matches now at the moment, like it's so exciting to watch when you see that. So anyway, then first 25 minutes we were kicking points from everywhere. We realised they were going to have men kind of blocking up the D, and we had practiced a lot of long range shooting, and they all went over. A couple of key moments where we goal chances that weren't executed, and then they went down and caught us in the sucker punch, and with a goal, which was a bit of luck in the first goal, but then they just kind of built on it, like they were very good at doing. And then the second half, they just blew us out, so. But again, it was still a very enjoyable year, and it was a big loss. It changed our whole attitude to the game. We then kind of became a little bit more kind of cautious or conservative at the back. Smarter, probably, really, it was
That's
a little
pity,
bit naive.
Right? Because if you won that, then everybody would have copied you. Like, that was the way. Everybody copied Donegal because they won that game, and then Kerry obviously out Donegal in the final.
That's right, yeah. So.
And then we had a couple of years of bleakness.
Yeah, and I think it's coming. I think it'll come full cycle. You see, that's I was in the football, there was a lot of tippy-tack football for a while, and wasn't that nice to watch? I'm not too sure. Now they're going full press, and City are doing it, and Liverpool are doing it, and it is exciting to watch. So hopefully, the football this year, you'll see teams like Mayo will do that, right? They'll go full press on you, and will they get guys back? Yeah, they will, but they'll press you, and then they'll transition back, and that's what we hope to see now in more of the teams this year.
Paul, it's really interesting that you say you felt you were on the very cusp of changing football in that 2014 semi-final. Was that kind of an overall view within the camp throughout your years, that you are part of something greater here, that football is at a crossroads and we can be part of the positive or we can be part of the negative side of this?
I'm not too sure why we would have labelled it like that, but we did know that this was an exciting brand of football, and you kind of just I don't know what any trailblazers think about kind of what the impact it's going to leave, but I do feel that would have been trailblazing, and that people would have followed suit, and because at the time people were talking about the fact that we were going full press in a time when other teams were looking at going the complete opposite. So maybe I'm off the mark there, but I do feel that we could have changed things. And
yeah, but Paul, don't you feel as if you're making the point about that kind of full press, and you said we backed ourselves man to man all over the pitch, but that's got to be key to the tactic. You got individual players of such high quality that you do back yourself 1v1 all over the pitch. Yeah, if you make comparisons, say Manchester City you've mentioned there, why don't every team high press Manchester City up the pitch man to man? When you go man to man against Manchester City, you've got to be prepared to leave yourself man to man 3v3
with De Bruyne,
at the back.
Aguero,
Sterling and Sané split across the pitch, big distances between your three defenders. Very few teams' defensive setups are going to back themselves 1v1 against play. So I think the individual qualities, you back yourself 1v1 all over the pitch. Yeah, absolutely. You go high press 1v1 all over the pitch. But that's how clear how good you were. You had confidence in yourselves in those 1v1 situations. That wouldn't be the case, I'd imagine, inferior counties. You wouldn't have that kind of talent pool.
Was that Connolly's best year as well?
Yeah, and we were both wing forwards, and we were actually buzzing off one another. We just had such a kind of a good relationship on the pitch. But he was shooting them over that day. He scored 5 points that day, and
I think in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think he got one in the. I got 4 in the first half. He got 4, and he got 1 in the second half. One of our very rare points, I think, in the second half that day. But
at half-time, was there panic in the dressing room? Did you kind of feel or was there? Because I remember at half-time thinking, this is they'll get this in the second half because they always do. But
in fairness, with Jim, I've never had any panic in the dressing room, and that's like, that just was never an occurrence. He just brought this calmness and deliberate approach to everything he did, and which was great, and that seeped into the team. You could feel that calmness, and I've had different managers who you could be roaring and screaming, and it riles you up, and this wasn't Jim's approach, and we responded that way, and still do.
Yeah, you can see that in the Mayo games when you have to chase a late score. There is actually still calmness in the crowd from the Dublin supporters because they know that the team is calm, and you just work the opportunity and eventually dig out a result.
You mirror what you see on the line, even and Jim would never kind of he never showed any kind of emotion, and then you become that kind of process-driven team.
Was there ever a moment where you did panic?
Through Jim's
not through Jim, because clearly he clearly doesn't, but as a player, when you're in the middle of say in any of those like Mayo games in the middle of the white heat, when you eventually win, and I guess as time goes on, you're not going to panic as much. But was there ever a moment where you thought, God, this thing might?
So many. Like for me, I remember when we played Kerry in 2015. I think it was 15. And they got a goal. Do you remember in the first half, or in the first 10 minutes we played? You should remember this one, right?
The game in the rain.
Sorry?
The game in the rain.
No, not the game in the rain.
2016, so the semi-final, yeah.
And early doors, Kerry got, I think, 2 goals. And I remember being rattled. And a kick out came my wing. I didn't win it, but I got the next ball. And I went to kick a crossfield ball to Dermo. And I was rattled, and I miskicked it, but it still got to him, right? And this was pure luck. And then he went and he took on Tomas O'Shea down the wing, and he kind of turned him inside out, came in on his right foot, and he took a shot, and he miskicked it too, and it came up short, and Mannion punched it into the net. I don't really remember that goal, and it was such a lucky goal, right? Mannion was brilliant, and he reacted to it as a young lad, but we got back into the game then you kind of settled you. But there's so many moments in games like that, especially when you play Mayo, where you feel rattled, because in fairness to the Mayo fans, like they just roar the house down, and whenever you played Mayo, it was, I always felt that there was more Mayo fans there than Dublin fans, and that creates a swell of pressure when they get on top, because they do come at you in waves where they kick 3 and 4 and 5 points in a row, and so moments like that you do remember being under pressure, and you're trying to kind of catch yourself and get yourself back into the game.
Were Mayo your biggest rivals over that period then, because they had that ability in games to rattle you? The Kerry thing seemed like it wasn't a one-off, but
that was 2013, by the way, just in case I get corrected.
2013, yeah. Sorry, thank you. Yeah.
Which was that when?
Because Tomas was playing. That was the 2 early goals, and then 2016 was 2 goals before half time.
That's right. Yeah.
I can confirm Kerry were also panicked at that point. It wasn't just Dublin.
But there was, that's right, early doors there were some serious battles with Kerry, and I remember in 2009 when they bet us, and then which was Pat's first year, and then we kind of got over the line in 2011. So it kind of came in ways where it was Kerry initially, and then it became morphed into, obviously in the middle of that Donegal, great rivalry, and then Mayo kind of was all the way through it too. But I was saying, I think to someone yesterday, I remember when we started, especially with Pat, our team that we were targeting was Tyrone, and that was the team that they would won the 3 All-Irelands, and they were phenomenal, and so it kind of comes in different phases,
They'd beaten Pillar's team really handily in a game in Croker in the rain as well.
08, yeah.
And that was just a straightforward win for Tyrone, which should, I presume, from a Dublin perspective, they think should never happen.
Yeah.
So to go from there to the point where the team is now on the cusp of 5 in a row is pretty amazing. What happened?
Yeah, to put your finger on one thing is impossible. I think it was just a number of things. First of all, you'd a phase where Jim was involved in a number of 21s teams, and Desi Farrell was involved in a number of minor teams and 21s teams that were ran really well and with really good talent, and that talent was nurtured, and there was just wave after wave of really good players coming through. Every year you come back at pre-season for a period there, and there was a new young lad, who was as good as the last one that came in, and to add that to a team that's kind of after winning an All-Ireland already, was just phenomenal. And their attitude as well, was just something that they came in with this attitude that, we want to win, and, we know how to win. And whereas, when I was coming into the senior panel, I'd never won anything.
Just glad to be here,
Glad to be here, and that changes everything. But things happened as well, like Kilmacud won an All-Ireland club and Vincent's won an All-Ireland club, and they all built onto this kind of idea that we can actually, we can do better than winning a Leinster or getting to a quarter-final. And you layer onto that, like, I always felt that Pat changed, our focus, and gave us this kind of, the foundation at the back. And then Jim layered onto that again, with this, ultra, professional setup, mindset, and benchmarking ourselves and measuring ourselves and against, the best. And
Jason Sherlock's influence in terms of and working with the basketball coach as well. You could see in that Tyrone game 2 years ago now that you had control of possession for the entire thing. It was like it was a bit of cat and mouse almost. And then last year there was a stat that Eoin Donegal had this in the Irish Times that Dublin haven't even attempted a shot outside the 45 from play in the Senior Football Championship. So the style morphed from that Donegal game where we can kick points outside if there are men inside to we're just going to keep the ball and run the clock down and be very surgical with our approach.
And that's the evolution of the game now, and that's what kind of it. And like when you measure, scoring percentages, lads are gonna be careful about what shots they take, and that these are like the same statistics that are being measured in any county. And when you measure wides as clearly as you do, and I always wonder when I watch hurling, like they just shoot on sight, and I actually don't know what the conversion rates are a lot of the time, but where in football it is, they do try to. Make sure that they're creating good shots, and that was one thing that we would always go after. And if you're playing against a packed defense, you have to bring it wide, and you have to bring it, bring it in deep and try to get it across the pitch, and things like that. But you have to just create a good scoring opportunity. That's ultimately what the aim is.
Two final quick questions that we wanted to ask you. Was the toughest player you ever marked? Toughest opponent, I guess that is.
I hate these questions.
Yeah, it's a tough question because, there's so many, right? But I actually, and I say this, and people say, "Oh, well, that's a cop out." But we have that many internal games, that I'm sick going up against James McCarthy in training, and that was week in, week out, and for years we were going battling each other, and then it kind of changed. And I'd be going up against Jack, and when you're getting a bit older and you have to go take on Jack, that's just Jack's pace was just, so. But there's been some great battles through the years with Colin Boyle. I remember famously, I said this to you when we did that thing in Vincent's a couple of weeks ago. In 2009, one of my first games, Mike McCarthy came back to play for Kerry, and he hadn't played all season, I don't think. And they rolled him out for a game, and I thought I was going to roast him, and he absolutely annihilated me. And so there's been great battles against different people along the way, but we've, yeah. You miss them battles. That's the thing, That's the thing you probably can't, gauge. That white-heated battle when you're in the midst, you're going toe to toe with somebody, and they're as fit as you, as strong as you, and you have to just kind of find a gap and use your head to try and find a shot, get into the space to find a shot, and try to track someone down. Them little things are the parts of the game that you really miss.
Will you be able to play club? Is your injury situation okay enough that you will be able to play club?
Yeah, no, definitely. I was actually, I'm looking forward to that because there's a load of games coming up now in the summer, and will I be able to train? It's the intensity difference between club and county is really predicated around training, right? And the games, the games are the games, and you'll always push yourself to the limit, but be pushed in training, and when you go to training and you have to perform, otherwise you're not going to play. That kind of coliseum or environment, you just have to be on the top of your game all the time. Where hopefully with club I can manage my back a little bit because I do plan on getting the handicap down as well in golf.
Yeah, so. Well, best of luck with that. Look, we will obviously talk to you about the GPA at some point because you have to leave now to go to do some day job stuff.
Day job stuff, yeah.
And there's loads to get into in that, but we figured that I think that. When you were talking about maybe not appreciating the quality of your own career, you'd 4 All-Stars in a row. You're the only player outside Kerry in history to do that. It's an incredible level of achievement and an incredible level of sustained consistency. Certainly everybody in Leinster and everybody around the rest of the country is going, whew, thank God he's gone. But it's an amazing career. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, I did. I loved every second. That's the thing, And the friends you make in sport, are special. And I was married there a couple of years ago, and just you had a little family pocket of family here, and then you've got some of your friends, and then you have footballers everywhere, and it's just crazy. So that's one of the key things that you'd always have, is that friendship.
Well, listen, congratulations on a great career. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to move on to the other big retirement yesterday, and that's talking Ruby Walsh now. I'm delighted to say Patrick Mullins is on the line, a man who knows Ruby Walsh very, very well. Patrick, good morning to you. I presume you were as surprised as everybody else yesterday.
I was literally at the race before. I was sitting down with Jamie Codd, and we were saying, these rumours every year you hear about someone retiring. No way Ruby will retire. And next thing, bang. Yeah, no, he kept his cards close to his chest. He hadn't told Willie. It was a big surprise to all of us.
One of the things we've been trying to get a handle on is what actually made him such a great horseman, and what was the thing that separated him in a race from everybody else. You've seen him up close every day, you've seen him in races. What was it that made him such a great jockey?
Sure, obviously, look, it's very difficult to define. There's a certain amount you're born with. You know, he likes the Tiger Woods, Lionel Messi. You know, there's a bit of that you can't learn. It's natural, but also he had a fantastic grounding in his father. Ted was one of the best amateur jockeys of all time, and would have been a contemporary and rival of my father when they were boat riding. And Ted would have taught him an awful lot about race riding, about the syntax of race riding, the mental aspect of it. And obviously he came to my father's when he was 16. My father was still riding at the time. He was wasting, trying to lose a few pounds to ride a difficult little filly up in Leopardstown, and I think about lunchtime he decided, heck this, I'm not going to do it, and he rang Ted to see would Ruby be able to ride the horse. Ruby was 16 at the time, and I think it was a 25 runner bumper, which is not easy, and Ruby came out and gave this difficult filly just the most perfect ride at 16 years of age, and won. And that was the moment that Willie decided, this is the man for us for the future. And 25 years later, it's coming to an end.
It's going to be a little bit weird in Close Sutton when there's riding out happening ahead of the big races, or when you're kind of sitting around having the pre-Cheltenham planning or the early season meeting about where you're going to map out where each of the horses is going to go, and Ruby probably won't be there.
Oh, he will. Ruby will be here. Ruby, that's the whole thing about Ruby here in Close Sutton. I don't think another jockey has had a relationship like it with a yard, being part of a team. Obviously he was, he was spanning 2 countries there for a while. He was in Nicholas' aunt here, but since he's come back here full time, he's here 3 days a week for work mornings. Now, he's not here this morning, I would like to point out. He said he would be, but we'll probably let him away with that one. And but no, he's an integral part of the team. He sits down there, says to David Casey when they're doing entries in there, Willie for declarations. I don't think he'll be stepping out of the team any bit. He's just going to be maybe stepping into different roles.
Okay, that is good to hear, because we kind of weren't quite sure exactly what was going to happen. From your own perspective, so we heard Davy Russell talk yesterday about how stylistically Ruby liked not to move that much on a horse, and you could kind of read how well the race was going for him by how much his hands were moving, or how much his ass was moving, or how much he was actually just getting busy on the horse. What was your perspective on that?
Yeah, Ruby has his own unique style. I don't think it's a style that can be copied. Noel Feely and Johnny Burke are probably the two that come closest. He rode with a length of leg. He didn't ride very short. He rode with a lot of his legs. So, you'd look at Ruby and say, oh, he's got lots of horse left, but actually he's getting the horse to give his all by squeezing with his calves and giving an inch with his hands. He did do as little as he could. He kept the horse balanced, kept the momentum up. Fantastic at getting a horse into a rhythm over jumps. Yesterday's ride on Kenboy looked quite simple in jump off down the rail in front, but that horse was very keen all the way, and Ruby was able to just sit against him, had the strength to hold him for 3 miles and to get him jumping in a rhythm. When horses keen the way Kenboy was yesterday, and he had definitely Red hassling him, they can often make mistakes. Ruby didn't allow him to do that. He just kept his head cool, and he's just one of a kind. And I think as well what set him apart was, when you think of Paul Carberry, you think of the hold-up ride, arriving late. When you think of Tony McCoy, you think of his strength in the finish. When you think of Ruby, he could do all of those. He wasn't pigeonholed into this was his great strength, because everything was his strength. He could drop one out, make it fall asleep, and arrive late like he did on Dundera in a handicap chase there a couple of years ago. he could make all the way he did on both Power and he power Faheen. And then obviously, a bit like Burrows saying, he could just be in the right place at the right time. He just had the logistics of race riding down to a fine art.
Patrick, those sound like attributes that you can't really teach to somebody, and he will be an unbelievable attribute given his knowledge of horses to hopefully Willie Mullins' yard.
He will, like I said, he's been here for so long. Very rare in elite sport or in anything. I mean, even Winston Churchill got sacked. Ruby's been here, and Willie and Ruby think the same way. They think along the same lines, and he's going to be a huge asset to the team as he always has been. But he's also, he can have this gruff persona at times, but here in the yard, he has an incredible enthusiasm. Like myself and Rachel Blackmore and Brian Hayes were talking the other day, and we were saying at Cheltenham there, he's like an 18-year-old. You can see the excitement when he gets off a horse that works well, and the smile. He hasn't lost that graw for the game. And around the yard, if any of the lads here in the yard, be they be young jockeys or fellas who've been here a while, asking for advice, he'll give them the time and explain what he wants to say to them.
Yeah.
So he's a unique man.
Patrick, it's obviously in the middle of the Punchestown Festival, so you guys have to scramble a little bit to fill the rides on some of the horses that Ruby would have been on. What's your expectation for the next couple of days, and how is today looking for you?
So I'm hoping I pick up one or two spares today. Maybe I'm sure Paul will probably stop on to Palm, the favourite in the stairs hurdle, and hopefully it might be reunited with Bacardis, and then Shack and Pourstois is going to be a very good spare in the novice chase against Duke de Genève. I imagine Paul will probably stay on Duke de Genève, seeing one on him in Cheltenham, but Danny's there as well. And look, we have a great arsenal of jockeys here. Paul will fit into Ruby's boots, no problem. Ruby wasn't there last year, and we had our best ever Punchestown with 18 winners. And so Paul will step up to the mark, no problem at all. We're not worried about that. And then Danny and David both won multiple Grade 1s, so and hopefully I can fit in a few matches as well. So we'll be well catered for.
And what about the last today, the Big Getaway? I think you're on the Big Getaway, and it looks like it might go off favourite at the moment.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this horse. He's a horse I adore. He's an absolute giant of a horse, but he works very well for a horse of his size. He does a fair impression of a rocket-powered baby elephant here at home. He's well able to move. I managed to get him beat in Navan. It probably wasn't my finest hour. I was probably a little overconfident on him. I ended up in a pocket, which meant I couldn't get a clear run when I wanted it. We're running him in a winner's race today, which is unusual for us. We usually, because he's a maiden, but we're taking the view that he should have won the last day, and that means he'll carry less weight today than the other winners. So it might work out for the best. I'd be disappointed if he doesn't win, but this is a great game for disappointments.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, listen, Patrick, you've been great with your time this morning. Enjoy today, and thanks a million for talking to us.
No problem, Gerald. Thank you.
It's Patrick Mullins there talking about Ruby Walsh, and the Big Getaway was that horse in the last goes to post at 7:45 in Punchestown today. Phil, how are you?
Good, yeah, good. We're going to start with Liverpool. Virgil van Dijk actually thinks they can still reach the Champions League semi-final despite last night's 3-0 defeat away to Barcelona. Former Liverpool striker Luis Suarez celebrated after he scored, getting a bit of stick for that.
Rightly so.
It was his first goal in the Champions League. Suarez is a goal scorer.
Semi-final, you celebrate.
How did he celebrate? Obviously, clearly it's how he celebrated. I didn't see it. I wasn't paying too much attention to the celebration.
He celebrated like he'd celebrate most goals. But he just hasn't scored many. That was his first goal in the Champions League this season. Just had that feeling that he was going to do it against Liverpool. But Coutinho, the other former Liverpool player, didn't really have much of an influence. I think any Liverpool fans watching last night were thinking, yeah, Liverpool did well to get so much money for him and reinvested in Van Dijk and Alisson. But Liverpool created plenty of chances until Lionel Messi took over 15 minutes from time. The standout moment, obviously, is that free kick in the 82nd minute, which made it 3-0. Barca firmly in the driving seat. The second leg is at Anfield on Tuesday night. Messi has now scored 8 free kicks this season. That was his 600th goal for Barca. 14 years to the day since he scored his first against Albacete in May 2005. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp says his side produced their best away Champions League performance under him, but he knows they needed an away goal.
Champions League now is like this. If you lose away, it's not a massive problem. Can happen as long as you score a goal. That's the problem tonight. We didn't score that goal, and so that makes our life now not easier, to be honest.
Yeah, you think back to when Roma beat them last season.
We do, yeah, we were talking about that.
They lost 4-1, they got that away goal. But
yeah, they won 3-0, so you can win on penalties. Fine.
Absolutely. I think I know you talked about Joe Gomez starting. Liverpool had 18 crosses last night, and that is one of Trent Alexander-Arnold's strong points, is crossing. And it wasn't really a strong point for Joe Gomez, but Liverpool outpassed them as well. It's a strange one where they played well, but they lost 3-0.
You could see it, Phil, couldn't you, in that second half? Physically, you were looking at it thinking, oh my God, they're actually bossing this game in the Nou Camp.
It was strange, and then I think maybe Liverpool fans were probably enjoying it, thinking this is, like, Liverpool are going toe-to-toe with Barcelona, and then in 8 minutes, like, the tie is pretty much put to bed, and that is just the elite levels. Tonight, it's the Europa League semi-finals. Arsenal at home to Valencia for the first leg. Unai Emery going up against his former club. Aaron Ramsey and Denis Suarez both ruled out for the rest of the season, so they won't feature. Chelsea are away to Eintracht Frankfurt. Chelsea have a bit of a defensive crisis at the moment in the centre. And
they got permanent defensive crisis.
Yeah, well, Maurizio Sarri says his side are in trouble in their defence.
Is David Luiz fit? Is he fit for the game?
David Luiz and Andreas Christensen are their only fit centre-halves. Eintracht are going to give these guys a good game. 4th in the Bundesliga, unbeaten in 11 home games in the Europa League. Both games kick off at 8 o'clock. You just talked there about Punchestown. It's obviously day 3. Hard to follow what happened yesterday, considering one of the best, if not the best, National Hunt jockey Ruby Walsh announced his retirement, but he did go out in style. Kemboy winning the Gold Cup, his 213th Grade 1 success. 39-year-old had a 24-year National Hunt career, 2,756 winners in Ireland and Britain, and won all the big races, 59 wins at Cheltenham, the Gold Cup, the Champion Hurdle, the Champion Chase. Ruby says, though, his first Aintree Grand National win was the highlight.
Happy on in 2000. That was never going to be seconded, bettered, or anything for me. I mean, that was a fairy tale, and there's been many brilliant days since. Thankfully, there's never been a bad day for me personally.
Yeah, the action gets underway at 20-4 at Punchestown. The Stayers Hurdle is the feature race. That's at 5:30. Rory McIlroy, Padraig Harrington and Seamus Power are all in the field for the Wells Fargo Championship, which gets underway at a course that Rory McIlroy really likes, Quail Hollow. And Leona Maguire's 2 shots behind leader Olivia Cowan at the Omega Dubai Moonlight Classic. So players play in daylight and under the lights. I don't know how you'd feel about playing golf under the lights.
Oh, no.
Why not?
No, I've got a pretty low trajectory, generally speaking. Straight off the mat onto the fairway. Scuttles down the fairways. That shouldn't be a problem for me.
Are they using white golf balls as a matter of interest? Because that seems to be a nightmare watching hurling under lights when they have a white slitter.
Yeah, I must look at that, because Bubba Watson uses a yellow ball, doesn't he?
Does he?
Pink.
Yeah. Pink. Is it pink?
Pink,
It's
isn't
a pink
it?
driver anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I try to tune out of Bubba Watson's mini soap opera.
Leona Maguire, it's the Nick Faldo Emirates course, and she is 7 under after 12 holes of her second round. And John Higgins continues his bid for a 5th World Snooker Championship this lunchtime.
Remarkable, isn't it? Given everything that happened yesterday.
Yeah, Shane Hannon has the best seat in the house.
Oh
wow, class.
That was taken from yesterday. He's right there.
Come here, did you see the video?
He looks like a ghoul.
The John Higgins one.
Oh, what happened? I was like, so somebody's on Twitter going, are we just not going to talk about the fact that John Higgins appears to have fallen asleep in the middle? What happened?
No, he was dead, wasn't he?
Yeah, but
he's been killed.
He's back now. I know. Like, at first I was thinking, is he looking up at the ceiling and somebody is just taking a small little bit of footage, like 2 or 3 seconds, and maybe he's looking up at the ceiling, or I don't know, he could be stretching out his back.
Was that what it was?
No, there was a full 20-second version of it where he's just like this, and he's still like this, and he's still like this.
And there's no shot. So basically,
resting his eyelids. Not asleep though, is he? He's not asleep.
Is it gamesmanship?
But it's...
Is he trying to say... He said he's looking at a screen, but like, is it not just, oh, come on and play the bloody shot?
It would be kind of scary if you're Andrew Robertson coming up against him is like, my opponent is a corpse, and then suddenly he's alive. You're like, oh my God, I'm coming up against a zombie. That would really kind of skew things.
Zombie snooker, that's the future.
He is going to take on David Gilbert at the Crucible, and then Judd Trump is taking on Gary Wilson, who is in the other semi-final. So, I mean, if you get a Higgins-Trump final, that would be pretty special, I'd say.
Good stuff, Phil. Thanks for that. A comment in on our YouTube channel from Pelstar Street GAA says, big blow for DiCaprio as he's not in Kenneth's top 3 Leos. That's DiCaprio.
Well, we actually went through a few top 50 films that yesterday evening with Joe. DiCaprio's name did get a mention in terms of. No. I stick by me top 3 Leos.
So Messi, Da Vinci, and Burdock.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
New Burdock was getting in there.
That's perfect. I didn't. I was like, he's
got there last night. He's got there last night after the show.
Kenny's revealing his Fine Gael bona fides, but he's not. No, he's not. He's gone Burdocks.
I love that walk from this show to 10:15 at night down to Christchurch to Leo Burdocks. Just a little. And here, the light coming out of the window onto the road.
They just give you a few chips, or is
more than a few. You give everybody more than a few chips.
Extra.
Struggle to finish the bag. And I nearly had some fish bites on top. I said, no, I'll stick just a bag of chips.
There is nothing better than the smell of vinegar.
Yeah, but walking through town, your bag of chips in front of you, on the way down to the bus stop.
You almost get nostalgic. You almost cry into the bag. It's so romantic.
Serenading the bag in my hand.
Phil, good stuff. Thanks for that. It's time for us to get onto our power rankings here. Eoin is going to rattle through these. He's got. He said that this is the stuff that he couldn't be arsed thinking about properly. He's put no time and thought into this because really he only cares about the top 3. That's what he said. What have you got for us on?
No, that's literally the very opposite of what I said. I've been poring over these. We're going to rank every county in the football championship from 33 through to 1 over the next week or so, and we're going to start with the first 9. We're going to do 4 slots of this, and we're going to start at the top at number 33, or start at the bottom I should say, with number 33, which is New York, who of course have never won a championship game. Now you may say it's a little bit unfair given how close they have come in recent years, that 2016 game against Roscommon, last year against Leitrim, but there is no evidence whatsoever to suggest that they're on the upward trajectory given the fact that they've lost the likes of Jamie Clark and Tom Kniff this year. Neil Collins is over there, but he's focused on his career. Daniel Flynn was at one point training with them this year, but he's of course returned home. So still at the bottom is New York at 33.
Spread is 20 points. I'm hearing that they'll be doing well to cover that.
Right, that is not good. I hadn't heard that piece of information. 32 is London. They finished bottom of the National Football League this year in Division 4. They lost to Sligo by 10 points last year in the Championship, then Louth by 10 points, and that was their summer wrapped up. So they're basement dwellers as well. London at 31 then, bottom of the teams here in Ireland is Limerick. They were hockeyed by Clare in last year's Munster Championship. They've only managed 2 wins in Division 4 this year, finishing second bottom just above London. Guess symptomatic of the general malaise in Munster football at the moment, Limerick, and a far cry.
Do you remember
the teams that we used to look at as a potential source of a shock?
Yeah. As an actual banana skin as opposed to a potential banana skin.
I'm not totally happy. I'm not totally happy where you're going with this, to be honest. Naming and shaming, shaming the worst teams in the championship.
Well, let's keep it positive then from here on out.
Taking a little bit of delight in it as well in terms of your tone.
Oh, he loves with the jackboot of tyranny.
I hate this.
Kerry have over everybody else.
It's not coming across that way. It's not coming across that way.
It has to be done, Kenny.
I suppose that's my point. It doesn't have to be done.
If it's any consolation, the next 4, it was very hard to separate between them. So
upon Limerick, I'm getting behind Limerick.
We'll go on to number 30, which is Antrim. I'm basing this, to be fair, a lot of last season's championship, and it is unfair on Antrim given they do play in the toughest province. If they're playing in Connacht or in Leinster, they might be a little bit higher up. Like, you don't expect them to win any game in Ulster. Last year they were beaten by Down, an expected result, but then in round 1 of the qualifiers, a kind of a despondent Offaly team beat them, and they weren't in the promotion picture whatsoever in Division 4.
But surely you've got to factor that in then.
A little bit harsh. I'll accept, Kenny. I'll accept this. Where
are you factoring that in, that they are in the toughest?
No,
you're not factoring that in.
Because
I mean, he is, because they'll lose their first round in the championship, and he knows that when the eventual power rankings at the end of the season come, they'll be one of the teams.
Yeah, but you've got enough knowledge of the individual qualities of all those counties. Your knowledge of the Garda is very good. No. So you should be able to make a judgment call on the basis of that, the quality of the individual, the team.
You can make a judgment call based on their National League form. And their National League form, to me, doesn't suggest that they... I'm saying they could be as high as 27 on this list, and anyone can make this argument.
I'm getting a text from my...
But 30 to 27 is their range. And let's move on to...
Sorry, no, my Antrim football contacts have been in touch to say that they're pinning this up on the dressing room wall, and that they expect the blood of Owen Sheehan by the end of the year.
Well, they don't play against me in the championship, so I don't care about dressing room all. They put it
Yeah,
up
but they
on.
come in here to be interviewed by you during the course of the season.
At least they're higher than 3 other
Come on,
colleagues.
your idea. It wasn't your idea, this. You were bullied into
Number 29, we've got Wexford. They were the only team beaten by London in the league this year, which is one of the reasons why they're a bit lower down than they might have been. They were beaten by Waterford in last year's championship in the first round, which is also a mark against them. They did come close to Laois in the Leinster Championship. That's a positive.
Finalists last decade. That's a precipitous fall.
They were in Division 3 as recently as last year, so that's pretty much the only thing kind of fending off Antrim there in that respect. 28 then, we've got Wicklow. Now Wicklow, they did get a win in the Leinster Championship last year, dumped out pretty easy though by Cavan in the qualifiers. Again, you can't really use that too badly to judge against a Division 4 team. They finished third from bottom in the league. Again, I'll accept, if you want to say that Antrim or Wexford should be higher than them, there's an argument to be made. In my opinion, Wicklow are ahead of them. This might be the most controversial one of this round. At 27, I've put in Waterford. Actually, wouldn't have been a bad idea. I like the sense of progress around Waterford. Like those scenes, as we can see on screen last year when they won their first championship game in forever, was brilliant. They finished with 3 wins in the league this year and scored 5 goals against Wexford in their encounter against them. They love playing against Wexford at this point. So Waterford, fair play, 27 and on the rise, I dare say, Kenny. There's your positivity. Back to some negativity. 26, Sligo. The only team to lose all their games in the National League this year. Worst scoring difference with -48, and nobody even came close to them. Wouldn't be surprised to see them slide again. Division 3 matches are the only reason why they've been a bit higher than the other teams. You would expect them, if they came up against any of the teams from 27 through to 33, they would beat them. But it's bad times for Sligo at the moment. But perhaps things can only get better. We'll see. One more. You'll be glad to hear, Kenny, in this round, and it is another positive one. It's at 25, we've got Leitrim, clearly on the rise after a brilliant National League campaign. Would have given a better account of themselves in Division 3 this year than Sligo, you'd suspect. I am cautious of how high to put them. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a qualifier win or two. They still played their football in Division 4 this year. Let's not forget.
Yeah, but come on.
Like they're as the second best team in Division 4. Let's not forget as well. So a win against Roscommon and Connacht would obviously propel them to unbelievable heights.
Are they not like 18, 19 around that?
In your view, they maybe are. For me, Leitrim are the 25th best team in the football championship.
These aren't power rankings, these are pain rankings. You were bringing pain, you were spreading mistrust and hatred amongst the GAA fraternity by pitting brother against brother, county against county in these rankings, and you are a hateful, spiteful individual.
Talk about staring in the pot. Oh my God.
You lost your soul in the street in Tennessee and you have not got it back.
Have you not watched that video? I'm all about love.
That character over there is still racking up the video views, and you over here are all that's left.
There's a finite amount of happiness. Here we go. There's your full list of the first round of power rankings. There's only 3 more to go. You'll be happy to hear.
33 New York, 32 London, 31 Limerick, 30 Antrim, 29 Wexford, 28 Wicklow, 27 Waterford, 26 Sligo, 25 Leitrim. There was a time when a power ranking that had Donegal down around, like in the 18, 19, really rankled with Jim McGuinness, and he brought it and he gave it to all the players. Look at this. I don't want to get the details wrong, but I have a feeling that it might have been Kieran Shannon's power rankings in the Tribune back in the day.
Well, you're very welcome, Sligo.
So this could lead. This is the beginning of the chaos theory, the butterfly effect. This morning, Leitrim have won their All Ireland, and they're just going to be collecting it in 18 months' time.
Well, they'll get onto this. They'll get onto page 2 next year.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's nearly all from us this morning. The latest Off the Brawl podcast with Dennis Hogan is available now. He talks about his trip to Mexico, really amazing stuff in that, and how he hopes to get a rematch. Off the Wall, our Game of Thrones show, is up to 7th in the iTunes podcast charts. Off the Wall is back tonight from 7 o'clock. A special show for you live from the Aviva Stadium. Steve McManaman and Kenny Cunningham and Nathan Murphy are going to be talking about the Champions League. What was McManaman like to go up against?
I'll save it for tonight.
All the good stuff is going to come tonight at 7 o'clock. Adrian and Eoin are back tomorrow morning from 7:45. But we're going to leave you with a really interesting chat here. So, Pakistani cricket legend Wasim Akram and the former Indian captain Dilip Vengsarkar were in Dublin launching the Euro T20 Slam this week. The tournament will get underway. What are you looking at me like that for?
No, it's just interested. I was on your shoulder.
Yeah, you are, yeah. Did I get the name wrong? Is that what it is?
It was a bit of a struggle for you.
Is that right?
You saved it the last minute.
Tournament gets underway from the 30th of August and will culminate on the 22nd of September. 6 teams will participate in the event, playing in Dublin, Edinburgh and Amsterdam. It's a real opportunity to bring one of the best daily forms of cricket to the Irish public. Here's Wasim and Dilip on the two nations' fierce rivalry on the field and the taut political landscape of it.
When I was thinking about what to talk to you guys about, what we often do is, usually years after the people have retired, we talk about great rivalries in sport and what were on the pitch at the time, great enemies becoming friends later in life, and kind of reflecting on those great memories. And really, when it comes to cricket, I don't think there is a bigger rivalry than India against Pakistan. I'm not sure whether you agree.
I agree 100%. I mean, England, Australia talk about Ashes, the biggest cricketing rivalry. But there's no comparison with India-Pakistan. 1.3 billion people in India, 200 million plus people in Pakistan. And imagine the pressure before the game happens month before. You know, at your home, your mom says, don't lose. Your dad says, don't lose. Your aunties, your uncles. So for a month, you go through this pressure. And as a young kid, sometimes it gets to you. But again, once you played the game, but we cricketers, I mean, he was my senior, one of the top players, one of the greats of the game. For me, after the game, we always chatted together. We always was friends. But on the field, the rivalry was unbelievable.
Like, that's the most important thing about sport, that it can put aside any political tensions or any tensions of that sort, personal even, and you get out there, you play, and as I say, your enemy's on the pitch for a few days perhaps, but then afterwards you can go and have a chat or whatever it may be.
Absolutely, because I think I toured Pakistan a few times and enjoyed touring Pakistan also. Of course, on the field, I think they're tough, because I think Akram was there, Imran was there, I think all those fast bowlers were there. But having said that, I think we were really friends of the field, you know, and that really helped us. In the sense, I think I toured in 78, then 1982, then I think 85, 86. So we're really friends. But I enjoyed the rivalry, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because if you perform well against India as a Pakistani and vice versa for Indian against Pakistan, you become a sudden hero. In the whole country, all the sponsorship, everybody's after you. And if you don't perform well, you'll go right at the bottom. So that's the beauty of Indo-Pak cricket.
How bad does it get when you do lose? What is the criticism like?
I was the captain of Pakistan team in 1996, the World Cup. We lost the quarterfinals against India in India, and I didn't play the game. I was injured. And I've been told by the cricket board not to come to Pakistan. I said, it's my country. Where you want me to go? And then some people, stoned my house. So it comes to that extent, but they don't realize, end of the day, it's a sport. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose, as long as you give your 100%, and in the end, let the best team win.
It's obviously a huge overreaction to do something like stone your house like that.
Yeah.
But then, on the positive side of things, do you think that it's overstating the importance of sport to suggest that cricket can play a part in any Indian-Pakistan tensions or anything like that? Do you think sport can actually have that political influence?
100%. People-to-people contact is very important between India and Pakistan, and this one sport, this cricket, brings them together every time. I remember when you guys, your Indian team toured in 2005 to Pakistan. I think you were there, witness the game. I mean, the whole Pakistan was awake. They were looking after. We have so many thousands of Indians first time coming to Pakistan. They got looked after beautifully by Pakistanis, and vice versa. If Pakistani team goes to India, and if Pakistani your supporters go and support their team, they get looked after in India very well as well. So it's just one of those things. Cricket, becomes both the countries together.
And you would think in the year 2019, with the things the way they are at the moment, it can play an even greater role. But it's been, 10, 11 years since the test between the two nations was 2008?
I think so. I mean, I played my first test match against India was in 87, then in 89, and then in 99. So 10 years we never played cricket, and we neighbours. Literally thrown, away. Yeah. But this World Cup is up the, end of May. World Cup is starting in England. India-Pakistan is playing. The game has been sold out in a couple of hours. That was a month ago. So again, a lot of Indian Pakistani, they live in England. So it'll be a lot of support for both the countries.
Dilip, do you go along with the kind of idea of the importance of a cricket player, I guess in the positive sense and the negative sense?
Absolutely, because and when you look at the game, you see basically as a sport, and you look positive in the sense, because I think from the sport you can only gain. and if you look only at the other side, it's not the same anymore.
What is the cultural importance of an Indian cricket player?
Cultural?
The cultural importance, because I guess because we're so far away, we don't get to fully appreciate.
Exactly.
Just for example, not only how famous you are, but if you make a comment politically, if you say something out loud, what importance does that have, say, on the people of India? And I want to ask you the same question about Pakistan in just a moment, but what do you think about that?
It's a big thing because the Indian cricket is a big name in India because this game is #1 game in India. And whatever you say, and whatever you do, it is highlighted in the media. Every cricketer, I think those who give. Those are playing IPL, Test match cricket or ODI cricket for some time. They're superstars basically in India.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I guess in Pakistan we have the figurehead, don't we?
If they say something regarding the politics, it affects on people. So our job as ex-players, ex-icons of the game, especially in our own country, is to especially with the social media now, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, just say something sensible. And not to ignite stuff. Our job is to make sure everybody is calm end of the day. We are the ambassadors from our country. So our job is to tell people it's okay. Love, let's spread love instead of hatred.
Well, exactly. But I also think it's not just an ambassador role. I think you are actually as well placed as any human in the conflict to actually speak about that, because you've travelled the world, you've seen different cultures, and you know the opposing culture as well as anybody else. And of course we have Imran Khan as Prime Minister at the moment, and I think that is almost like the perfect figurehead of a country that is so obsessed, and like with two countries involved here that are so obsessed with cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Imran is on the right track. He has been the Prime Minister for 8-9 months now, and the whole country is very excited. He said in a couple of his speeches that he would like to start a dialogue with his counterpart in India, their Prime Minister, Modi ji, as we call them, being an elder. So things are on the right track, and I think after the elections, now it's happening in India, after the election things will calm down and they probably will have a chat, and that's where I think the relationship will start to excel again.
Well, let's hope so. I think we're all on the same page there when it comes to hoping that peace prevails.